Hi, my name is Shirley, and I'm a 31-year-old office worker. A year ago, I married a man named Mason. We met on a blind date, and after dating for a year and a half, he proposed. I had always dreamed of settling down, so even though it felt a bit rushed, I accepted his proposal. But now looking back, I realize I should have been more careful. Soon after our wedding, Mason suddenly decided to change jobs. I was surprised and asked him why he made such a quick decision. He said his previous job didn't let him fully use his skills. What shocked me even more was that he had already quit and would be leaving his job at the end of the month. Luckily, he found a new job quickly, but it paid less than his old one. At first, I wasn't too worried because I was also working. But then Mason started pressuring me to quit my job. I might have considered it if his new salary was enough for both of us, but with his recent job change, his income was lower, and he kept saying it would go up soon without knowing when. Quitting my job under these uncertain financial conditions seemed risky. We needed my income to keep saving money and cover our basic expenses like rent and car payments. It just wasn't practical to rely only on Mason's salary. One evening, Mason handed me divorce papers, trying to scare me. "You know I'm ready for this whenever," he said. I told him to calm down and think about what he was saying, but he just walked away to his room. This argument made me reflect on how quickly things had changed since I met Mason. I told him I wouldn't quit my job until his salary improved. He seemed to accept this at first, but he kept bringing it up again and again. Whenever he asked, "When are you going to quit?" I gave him the same firm answer. Now, a year into our marriage, his salary still hadn't increased, and he continued to pressure me about quitting my job. Sometimes I wanted to respond sarcastically, but I held back, knowing our financial stability depended on my income. If quitting my job was so important to him, I felt he should focus on advancing his career to earn more. As time went on, I started to understand why Mason was so insistent on me leaving my job. It became clear during our visits to his parents' house. Whenever we were with his mother, Martha, Mason would act concerned and say he wanted to make her life easier. Martha would thank him, and Mason would look at me like he was trying to nudge me into quitting. He suggested that his mother needed help, but Martha was perfectly fine. She was healthy, active, and even worked a part-time job that supported her hobbies and social life. She didn't need me to take care of her, but Mason kept pushing the idea. "If only one of us were home during the day, we could check on Mom daily," he said out of nowhere. It seemed he imagined me visiting Martha every day, which felt unnecessary and overwhelming. I asked him directly what he expected me to do since Martha was perfectly capable on her own. Mason listed small tasks like helping with housework or running errands. It was clear he had ideas about how I could contribute, but none of them seemed to justify me giving up my career. This constant cycle of requests and explanations was exhausting. I needed Mason to understand that while I was happy to support his family when needed, quitting my job without a good reason was not something I could easily agree to. After all, Martha had her part-time job and spent most of her days out with friends. I pointed out to Mason that when he suggested I handle the housework during the day, his response left me baffled. Was he really implying that I should become his mother's maid? Mason was always very concerned about maintaining a certain image, especially in front of his parents. If he was so eager to take care of them, why didn't he handle the household chores himself? Despite his insistence, I stood firm in my decision not to quit my job. I also chose not to visit my in-laws on my days off, although I made an effort to see them during major holidays like New Year's. During our visits, I noticed a pattern. Mason often delegated tasks to me. He'd ask me to tidy up, assist his mom, or run errands. I resisted these requests. When he suggested I go to the store, I would respond, "Don't you know this area better than I do?" His reply was always the same, that it wouldn't look right if he did it himself. I found this reasoning both confusing and manipulative. It seemed like he was more interested in controlling the situation and projecting an image of caring for his family than actually caring for them, or for me. Over time, my view of Mason began to change. It seemed like he was more concerned with appearances than with real affection or respect for me. When I finally confronted him, asking why he didn't help out more or even quit his job to take care of his mother, his reaction spoke volumes. He looked disgusted and uncomfortable, saying, "That's not something I'm supposed to do. I'm giving you these instructions so my mom will think you're a considerate, useful wife. You should realize how kind I'm being to you." His words revealed a lot. He wanted to dump all the hard work on me while making himself look good, as if he was doing something extraordinary. But I'm not his servant, and I don't deserve to be treated with disrespect, especially in front of my in-laws. It became clear to me that Mason's priorities were completely skewed. He cared more about appearances than about having a genuine partnership and supporting each other. If Mason keeps making these unreasonable demands, I won't stay quiet. I'll stand up for myself. Despite many discussions, Mason hasn't changed. He constantly pesters me with the same old question. "Are you going to quit your job?" Every time we visit my in-laws, he continues to boss me around just as he always has. I finally reached my limit. I decided it was crucial to have a serious conversation with him. We need to talk about our future, I said, hoping to steer our conversation in a constructive direction. What are you even trying to say? Mason retorted, clearly annoyed. I'm honestly fed up, I replied. I'm tired of you constantly asking me when I'll quit my job, and I'm exhausted from you pressuring me to take care of Martha. I laid out my concerns to Mason. Why are you fed up with that? You're my wife, and it's your duty to care for your husband's parents, Mason argued. Don't you think that's a huge responsibility to place solely on me? Shouldn't you, as their biological child, be responsible for helping with the housework and taking care of your parents in the first place? I challenged his outdated views. No way, it's the wife's duty to do it. Are you the kind of person who doesn't care about family? Mason accused, clearly upset by my resistance. I'm disappointed to hear you say that, he added. Sensing an opportunity to expose the double standard, I asked, then let me ask you this. How have you been taking care of my parents? If I asked you to care for my parents, would you do it? Mason looked at me blankly, unable to see the parallel. What are you saying? Why should a husband take care of his wife's parents? So does that mean you won't take care of my parents now or ever? I pressed, trying to highlight his inconsistency. Husband's parents and wife's parents are completely different, Mason replied, missing the point. What difference does that make? I don't get it, I said, feeling frustrated. I didn't realize you were so clueless. It's like talking to my old boss, I continued, dismayed by his lack of understanding. What are you saying? Mason asked, confused. I'm saying that both sets of parents should be important, and we should take care of each other's families, I replied, emphasizing the importance of mutual support and equality in our responsibilities. So you only prioritize your own family by blood? I'm so disappointed in you, I exclaimed. I won't be visiting your parents anymore. Why would you do that? Enough is enough. I'm the one who wants you to stop this nonsense, I retorted. No way. How dare you talk back like that? My mom is right. Mason shot back, his temper flaring. Mom was talking about you. She said you're a badly behaved wife. That's why she gave me this. Mason pulled out a piece of paper from his bag. It was divorce papers. What? You already had divorce papers ready? I was shocked, but Mason seemed oddly proud. See? I scared you, didn't I? I'm prepared for this anytime, so think about what you just said, Mason declared smugly before storming off to his room. Unbelievable. Why is Mason so selfish? That look of triumph on his face, it's clear the divorce papers are just a threat to make me obey him. The fact that Martha was involved made me even more suspicious. Mason is acting like a puppet for his mom, trying to control me while following her orders. It's ridiculous. I won't let Mason have his way. How can he not see that our marriage is in trouble when he acts like this? His lack of understanding just annoys me more. Mason had already completed the divorce papers and had them signed with witnesses, including Martha and his friends. This meant I could sign and file them whenever I chose. The next day after Mason went to work, I filled out the divorce papers and submitted them to the city office. As a precaution, I also filed a notice of non-acceptance of the marriage certificate. I called my parents and explained the situation, knowing Mason might try to file the marriage certificate on his own. When my parents learned that I had prepared the divorce papers, they were initially shocked but fully supported my decision. Outraged by Mason's behavior, they immediately offered to help me move my belongings. Taking leave from work, I had my parents come over, and we relocated all my things to their house while Mason was away. I decided to stay with my parents for a while. It was the first time in a long time that I felt truly comfortable and at ease in their home. Reflecting on my marriage, it became clear that Mason never contributed his fair share to our household chores. I was the one cooking dinner after long work days and handling all the cleaning and laundry on my days off. On top of that, he expected me to also care for his parents, which was just not feasible. That evening, Mason called me, probably just back from work. Hello? Hey, where are you right now? I told Mason, I'm at my parents' house. He sounded surprised and annoyed. Why would you go back there without my permission? Where's all your stuff? Don't tell me you were staying the night, he questioned, not realizing the seriousness of the situation. He seemed to think I was just staying over, not that I had moved out for good. I'm not coming back, I said firmly. What are you talking about? Come back here and make me some food, he demanded. Make it yourself, I replied before ending the call. I couldn't discuss divorce with him if he kept acting so dismissive, so I decided to block his number and wait for him to show up at my parents' house. A week later, Mason arrived at my parents' home with his parents. They'd all looked serious as we sat down in the living room. It was 3 against 3. How could you leave without my permission? Mason demanded, his voice full of disbelief and accusation. You were treating me like a housekeeper, Mason. All I ever asked was that you take care of your family responsibilities, I said, standing my ground. That's not true. What kind of wife am I if I don't take care of Mason? Martha, his mom, gave me a fierce glare. My father started to get angry, but I quickly spoke up. Mason told me to quit my job and take care of Martha, claiming it was my duty as his wife. Yet when it comes to my own family, he expects me to handle everything alone. Ultimately, Mason wants obedience and uses me to care for his parents while taking credit for it. That's why he prioritizes his parents over mine. Martha continued to glare, but Mason's father, Liam, looked confused, as if he hadn't known about this. "Let me clear the air," Mason said, suddenly blaming the idea of divorce on his mother. "Why would you suggest that?" Liam asked, surprised. "Oh no, it's because Camila has an attitude problem," Martha stammered. "And did you say that my parents aren't a priority?" I pressed. "Well, it's only natural that your parents come first," Martha replied defensively. "Don't be absurd. I came here to support you after hearing about the unfair treatment Camila endured, but now it seems you're the one at fault. Don't hide behind her parents' authority to get your way," Liam said, making Mason visibly shrink in his seat. Liam then apologized to me and my parents. "I'm truly sorry for the trouble caused by my foolish son. I will have a serious talk with him." "Liam, you're not to blame, so please don't apologize," I replied. "Thank you for your kind words, but there's something else I need to say." I turned to Mason, who looked nervous. "The divorce papers you gave me, I've already filed them. We're no longer married." Mason and Martha both turned pale. "Why did you file them without my permission?" Mason demanded, shocked. "You told me I could file them whenever I wanted. Besides, you had already filled out your part and had Martha sign as a witness," I calmly explained, but Mason was clearly at a loss for words. Seeing the tension, Liam, furious, intervened. "Mason, you used divorce as a threat?" he exclaimed, and unable to contain his anger, he slapped Mason across the face. Martha, witnessing this, was visibly shaken. Liam turned to me and apologized sincerely. "I apologize deeply that you had to witness this. You have every right to divorce this fool. On behalf of Mason, I'm truly sorry for the damage done to your marriage," he said, tightening his grip on Mason's collar as he demanded apologies from both Mason and Martha before ushering them out of the house. Later, I thanked Liam for his intervention. He assured me that all of Mason's assets and property were transferred to me without any hassle, given my higher income and the effort I had put into managing our household. It was a relief to secure everything from our marriage. I later found out that Liam had divorced Martha, clearly disgusted by her actions. One day I ran into a colleague from Mason's old workplace who shared some surprising news. Mason had not been performing well at his job and often received harsh criticism from his boss. In defiance, Mason resigned and switched jobs, which only added to my frustration with him. Rather than taking responsibility for his shortcomings, he blamed others, which likely contributed to his lower pay at the new job. Now I'm relieved to have left him. I've rented a cozy apartment and am enjoying living independently. Work is going smoothly, and I even received a recent raise. Currently, I'm not interested in relationships and prefer to focus on my career. Mason always cared more about appearances than actual abilities. He maintained a facade at home but failed to improve professionally. Sadly, many spouses use divorce threats as leverage, thinking it gives them power, but it's a big mistake. I hope they realize their folly and find happiness alone. Meanwhile, I'm grateful to have moved on from Mason and look forward to meeting someone special in the future when I'm ready.
The phone vibrates in my purse as I sit in the front pew, tears streaming down my face. My sister's casket gleams under the church lights, her portrait smiling serenely beside it. I know it's Greg calling without even looking. He's been blowing up my phone since I left for the funeral this morning, demanding I come home to play hostess for his family gathering. I step outside to answer, bracing myself. "Where the hell are you?" Greg snarls through the phone. "You need to leave that funeral right now and get back here. My mother and cousins are waiting." "Greg, please," I whisper, my voice shaking. "It's my sister's funeral. I need to be here for my family." "I don't care. You have responsibilities at home. If you're not back here in an hour, don't bother coming back at all. I'll send you divorce papers tomorrow." The call ends abruptly. I lean against the cold stone wall, my body trembling. 10 years of marriage to Greg, and it's come to this. Threats and ultimatums on the day I bury my sister. I think back to how we met in college, how he swept me off my feet with grand romantic gestures. I was young and naive, mistaking his possessiveness for love. Soon after our wedding, he convinced me to quit my job and become a housewife, while his domineering mother Janice constantly criticized my every move. Slowly, insidiously, they chipped away at my confidence and independence. The church doors creak open and my brother-in-law Steve emerges. "Lana? Is everything okay?" I shake my head, fresh tears spilling over. Steve puts a comforting arm around my shoulders as I pour out the details of Greg's latest threat. "This isn't right," Steve says firmly. "No one should be treated this way, especially by their husband. You need to put your foot down with Greg." "How? He controls everything. The money, the house, and he'll turn our son against me if I try to leave, just like his mother did to him." Steve looks me straight in the eye. "Lana, listen to me. You are stronger than you know. Don't let them bully you anymore. If not for yourself, then for Mason. He needs you to stand up and show him this isn't normal or okay." I let out a shuddering breath. Deep down, I know Steve is right. For years, I've made excuses, hoping Greg would change. But the cycle of control and cruelty only gets worse. I think of my bright, sweet boy and my heart clenches. I can't let him grow up thinking this is what a marriage should be. "I'll try," I promise Steve. "I don't know how, but I'll try to be strong. For Mason and for myself." As we walk back into the church, I square my shoulders, preparing for the battle ahead. Confronting Greg and Janice won't be easy, but for the first time in a decade, I feel a flicker of determination amid the fear. I will find a way to break free, no matter what it takes. For my son and for the woman I used to be, the one I'm slowly discovering still exists beneath the years of oppression. This is just the beginning. After the funeral, I find myself lingering in the church parking lot, dreading the confrontation waiting for me at home. Steve approaches, his brow furrowed with concern. "Lana, I couldn't help overhearing your conversation with Greg earlier," he says. "The way he spoke to you, it's not right. No one deserves to be treated like that." I avert my gaze, shame burning in my throat. "It's fine, Steve. I'm used to it." "But you shouldn't be," he insists. "Lana, I know it's not my place, but I care about you, and I can see how much you're hurting. You need to stand up for yourself." Tears sting my eyes. "I don't know how. Greg, he controls everything. The money, the house. He's even threatened to turn our son against me if I try to leave." Steve's jaw clenches. "That's not love, Lana. That's abuse. You deserve so much better." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. Deep down, I've always known the truth, but hearing someone else say it out loud makes it impossible to ignore. "I'm scared," I whisper. "Greg and his mother, they've broken me down for so long. I don't know if I have the strength to fight back." Steve places a hand on my shoulder, his eyes fierce with determination. "You're stronger than you think, and you don't have to do this alone. I'm here for you, and I know your family will support you too." I take a deep, shaky breath. "Thank you, Steve. I don't know what I'd do without you." "You've got this, Lana. One step at a time, and remember, you're not just doing this for yourself, you're doing it for Mason too." His words echo in my mind as I drive home, my heart pounding in my chest. He's right. I can't let my son grow up thinking this is normal. I have to be strong, for both of us. When I pull into the driveway, Greg is waiting on the porch, his face twisted with anger. Janice hovers behind him, her lips pursed in disapproval. "Where the hell have you been?" Greg demands as I climb out of the car. "I told you to come home hours ago." I square my shoulders, meeting his gaze head on. "I was at my sister's funeral, Greg. Where I needed to be." "Needed to be?" he scoffs. "What about what I need? What about your responsibilities here?" "I have a responsibility to my family, too," I say, my voice trembling slightly, "and I'm done letting you control every aspect of my life." Greg's eyes narrow. "What did you just say to me?" I take a step forward, my heart hammering against my ribs. "I want a divorce, Greg. I can't live like this anymore." Rage contorts his features. "You ungrateful bitch," he snarls, raising his hand as if to strike me. I flinch, bracing for the blow, but it doesn't come. Instead, Janice steps forward, her voice dripping with venom. "If you even think about leaving, I'll make sure you never see your son again," she hisses. "I'll turn him against you so fast your head will spin." Fear claws at my throat, but I force myself to stand my ground. "No, you won't. I won't let you poison him the way you've poisoned Greg." Greg's face reddens with fury. "You're not going anywhere," he growls. "You're nothing without me. Do you understand? Nothing." I look him straight in the eye, a newfound strength surging through me. "You're wrong, Greg. I'm everything without you, and I'm done being your punching bag." With that, I turn on my heel and march inside, slamming the door behind me. My hands shake as I lean against it, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I know this is just the beginning. Greg and Janice won't let me go without a fight, but for the first time in years, I feel a flicker of hope amid the fear. I'm ready to take my life back, no matter what it takes. The moment I step inside the house, Greg is on me like a rabid dog. He grabs my arm, his fingers digging into my skin hard enough to leave bruises. "You think you can just walk away?" He snarls, his face inches from mine. "After everything I've done for you?" I try to pull away, but his grip only tightens. "Let go of me, Greg. Not until you come to your senses. You're not leaving me, Lana. I won't allow it." Janice appears in the doorway, her arms crossed over her chest. "You should be grateful Greg ever married you in the first place," she sneers. "Who else would want a pathetic, useless woman like you?" Anger flares in my chest, hot and bright. "I'm not useless," I snap, "and I'm not gonna let you treat me like this anymore." Greg barks out a harsh laugh. "Oh, really? And what are you gonna do, huh? You have no money, no job, no skills. You're nothing without me." I wrench my arm out of his grasp, my skin throbbing. "I'll figure it out. Anything is better than living like this." Janice steps forward, her eyes glittering with malice. "If you even think about leaving, I'll make sure you never see Mason again. I'll tell him what a selfish, horrible mother you are. He'll hate you forever." My stomach twists at the thought of losing my son. "You can't do that. The courts won't let you." "Courts?" Greg scoffs. "You really think you can afford a lawyer? I control all the money, remember? And I'll make sure you don't see a dime." Fear claws at my throat, but I force myself to stand tall. "I have friends, family. They'll help me." Janice laughs, cold and cruel. "Your family? They've never approved of you, Lana. They think you're a failure. And your friends? What friends? We're all you have." Tears sting my eyes, but I blink them back. I won't let them see me break. "That's not true. I have people who care about me, who believe in me." Greg's face twists with rage. "You ungrateful bitch," he spits. "After everything I've given you, this is how you repay me? By tearing our family apart?" "You tore this family apart the moment you laid hands on me," I say, my voice shaking. "The moment you decided your ego was more important than your wife and child." Greg's hand shoots out, grabbing me by the throat. I gasp, clawing at his fingers as he slams me against the wall. "You're not going anywhere," he growls, his breath hot against my face. "You belong to me. Do you understand? You'll never escape me." Black spots dance in my vision as I struggle for air. Just as I'm about to pass out, Greg releases me, letting me crumple to the floor. "Get out of my sight," he snarls, "and if you ever try to leave again, I'll make you regret it." I stagger to my feet, my throat burning with every breath. Janice smirks at me as I stumble past her, her eyes gleaming with triumph. I make it to the bedroom before I break down, sobs tearing from my chest. I bury my face in my hands, my whole body shaking with the force of my grief. How did I let it get this far? How did I let them break me down so completely? But even as despair threatens to swallow me whole, a tiny spark of defiance flickers in my chest. They may have beaten me down, but they haven't broken me. Not yet. I think of Mason, of the bright, beautiful boy who deserves so much better than this. I think of my sister, of the strength and courage she always saw in me, even when I couldn't see it myself. I may be trapped, but I'm not helpless. I'll find a way out of this, no matter what it takes. For Mason, for myself, for the life I know we both deserve. Greg and Janice have underestimated me for the last time. They think they can control me, but they're wrong. I'm done being their victim. It's time to fight back. The next morning, I slip out of the house before Greg and Janice wake up, my heart pounding in my chest. I drive to a nearby coffee shop and pull out my phone with shaking hands. I scroll through my contacts until I find Olivia's number. She's a divorce lawyer and an old friend of my sister's. I hesitate for a moment, fear twisting in my gut. What if she doesn't believe me? What if she thinks I'm overreacting? I take a deep breath and hit the call button. Olivia answers on the second ring, her voice warm and friendly. "Lana, it's been a while. How are you holding up?" I swallow hard, tears stinging my eyes. "Olivia, I need your help. I want to leave Greg, but he's threatening to take my son away from me." There's a pause on the other end of the line. "Lana, are you safe right now? Is Greg with you?" "No, I'm alone. But he's been abusive, Olivia, physically and emotionally, and his mother is just as bad. They've been controlling every aspect of my life for years." Olivia's voice is gentle but firm. "Lana, I'm so sorry you're going through this, But you're doing the right thing by reaching out for help. No one deserves to be treated that way. Relief washes over me, so strong it nearly knocks me off my feet. Thank you, Olivia. I didn't know who else to turn to. You did the right thing, she assures me. Now, here's what we're going to do. I want you to start documenting everything. The abuse, the threats, the financial control. Keep a journal, take photos of any injuries, save any threatening messages or emails. I nod, even though she can't see me. Okay, I can do that. Good. And I'm going to start putting together an escape plan for you and Mason. We'll need to be careful, but I promise you, Lana, we'll get you out of there. Tears spill down my cheeks. Thank you, Olivia. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. You don't have to repay me, she says firmly. Just focus on staying safe and gathering evidence. I'll handle the rest. We hang up a few minutes later, and I sit in my car, my mind racing. I know documenting the abuse won't be easy. Greg is careful not to leave visible marks, and Janice is a master at twisting my words against me. But I also know I can't keep living like this. I can't let Mason grow up thinking this is normal, that this is what love looks like. I drive home in a daze, my heart hammering in my chest. When I walk through the front door, Greg is waiting for me, his eyes narrowed with suspicion. Where were you? He demands, his voice low and dangerous. I force myself to meet his gaze, my chin lifted defiantly. I went for a drive. I needed some air. He takes a step towards me, his fists clenched at his sides. You didn't think to ask permission first? Anger flares in my chest, hot and bright. I don't need your permission to leave the house, Greg. I'm not your prisoner. His face twists with rage, and for a moment I think he's going to hit me. But instead, he grabs my arm, his fingers digging into my skin. You're my wife, he snarls. You'll do as I say, or there will be consequences. I wrench my arm out of his grasp, my heart pounding. I'm not afraid of you anymore, Greg, and I'm not going to let you control me any longer. With that, I turn on my heel and march upstairs, slamming the bedroom door behind me. My hands shake as I pull out my phone and start typing up everything that just happened. It's not much, but it's a start. A tiny crack in the facade of our perfect marriage, a glimmer of hope in the darkness. I know the road ahead won't be easy. Greg and Janice will fight me every step of the way, will try to break me down until there's nothing left. But I also know I'm not alone anymore. I have Olivia in my corner, and the truth on my side. And for the first time in years, I feel something stirring in my chest. A flicker of strength, of determination. I'm ready to take my life back, one piece at a time, and heaven help anyone who tries to stop me. Over the next few weeks, I pour all my energy into documenting Greg's abuse and gathering evidence of his financial misconduct. I take photos of the bruises on my arms, save threatening voicemails and emails, and keep a detailed journal of every incident. But the more I stand up for myself, the more volatile Greg becomes. He flies into rages over the smallest things, smashing dishes and punching holes in the walls. Janice only adds fuel to the fire, whispering poisonous words in his ear and reminding me of my place. One evening, I come home from a meeting with Olivia to find Greg waiting for me in the living room, a cruel smile on his face. I've been doing some thinking, he says, his voice deceptively calm, and I've decided you don't need a car anymore, or a phone for that matter. My stomach drops. What are you talking about? He holds up my keys and my cell phone, dangling them in front of me like a cat toying with a mouse. I'm cutting you off, Lana. No more sneaking around behind my back. No more secret meetings with your little friends. Panic rises in my throat. Greg, you can't do this. I need my car to take Mason to school, to run errands, and my phone is my only lifeline. He laughs, cold and cruel. You don't need a lifeline. You have me, remember? I'm all you need. Rage boils up inside me, hot and fierce. Give me my keys and my phone, Greg, now. His eyes flash with anger, and he takes a step towards me. Or what? What are you going to do, Lana? Run crying to your lawyer friend? Go ahead, tell her how I'm such a monster for trying to keep my family together. I stand my ground, my heart pounding in my chest. Olivia knows the truth, Greg. She knows exactly what kind of man you are, and she's going to help me leave you, no matter what it takes. His face twists with rage, and he grabs me by the shoulders, shaking me hard. You're not going anywhere, do you hear me? You're mine, Lana. Mine. I shove him away, my whole body trembling. I'm not your property, Greg. I'm a human being with my own thoughts and feelings and desires, and I'm done letting you control me. He stares at me for a long moment, his eyes dark with fury. Then he turns and storms out of the room, slamming the door behind him. I sink to the floor, my legs giving out beneath me. Tears stream down my face as I wrap my arms around myself, trying to hold myself together. I know I can't back down now. Greg will never let me go willingly, will never admit to his own cruelty and abuse. If I want to be free, I'll have to fight for it with everything I have. The next day, I meet with the private investigator Olivia hired to look into Greg's financial dealings. He hands me a thick folder, his face grim. "It's all there," he says. "Bank statements, emails, recordings of phone calls. Your husband has been embezzling money from his company for years, funneling it into offshore accounts." I flip through the pages, my heart racing. With this evidence, I can not only secure a divorce, but also make sure Greg faces the consequences of his actions. I thank the investigator and head home, the folder tucked safely in my purse. When I walk through the front door, Greg is waiting for me, his face twisted with suspicion. "Where have you been?" he demands. I meet his gaze head-on, my chin lifted defiantly. "I was taking care of some business. Business that's going to change everything, Greg." His eyes narrow, but before he can say anything, I push past him and head upstairs. I lock myself in the bedroom and pull out my phone, dialing Olivia's number with shaking fingers. "It's time," I say when she answers. "I have the evidence we need. Let's take this bastard down." Olivia's voice is fierce with determination. "I'm on my way, Lana. Hang tight. We're going to end this once and for all." I hang up the phone and take a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. The final showdown is coming, and I'm ready to face it head on. Greg and Janice may think they've beaten me down, but they have no idea what I'm capable of. They've underestimated me for the last time. It's time to show them what a woman scorned can do. The confrontation comes sooner than I expect. I'm in the kitchen, making dinner and trying to calm my racing heart when Greg storms in, his face twisted with rage. "You stupid bitch," he snarls, slamming his fist on the counter. "You think you can outsmart me? You think you can destroy everything I've built?" I take a step back, my heart pounding. "What are you talking about, Greg?" He holds up his phone, his eyes blazing. "I just got a call from my boss. He says there's been an investigation into my finances, that they found evidence of embezzlement and fraud." My stomach drops. The private investigator must have tipped off Greg's company. I knew it was a risk, but I didn't expect it to happen so fast. "Greg, I don't know what you're talking about," I stammer, trying to keep my voice steady. He grabs me by the arm, his fingers digging into my skin. "Don't lie to me, Lana. I know you're behind this. You and that lawyer friend of yours, trying to ruin me." I wrench my arm out of his grasp, anger boiling up inside me. "You ruined yourself, Greg. You're the one who's been stealing money, lying to everyone. You're the one who's been abusing me for years." His face twists with rage, and he lunges at me, his hands wrapping around my throat. I gasp for air, clawing at his fingers as he slams me against the wall. "You're nothing without me," he hisses, his breath hot against my face. "You're a pathetic, worthless piece of shit, and you always will be." Black spots dance in my vision as I struggle to breathe. I'm about to pass out when suddenly the front door bursts open and Olivia rushes in, followed by 2 police officers. "Get your hands off her, you son of a bitch," Olivia shouts, her voice shaking with fury. Greg releases me, and I crumple to the floor, gasping for air. The police officers grab him by the arms, wrestling him into handcuffs as he screams obscenities. "Lana, are you okay?" Olivia kneels beside me, her face etched with concern. I nod, tears streaming down my face. "I'm okay. I can't believe it's over." She helps me to my feet, her arm around my waist. "It's not over yet, honey, but we've got him. We've got all the evidence we need to put him away for a long time." I watch as the police officers drag Greg out of the house, his face twisted with rage and hatred. Janice stands in the doorway, her eyes wide with shock. "What have you done?" she whispers, her voice trembling. I meet her gaze head-on, my chin lifted defiantly. "I've taken my life back, Janice, and there's nothing you or Greg can do to stop me." She stares at me for a long moment, then turns and walks away, her shoulders slumped in defeat. I turn to Olivia, my heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you," I whisper, my voice choked with tears. For everything. She hugs me tight, her own eyes glistening. You did this, Lana. You had the strength and the courage to stand up for yourself, to fight back against the monsters who tried to break you. I take a deep, shuddering breath, feeling like a weight has been lifted off my chest. What happens now? Olivia smiles, fierce and determined. Now, we make sure Greg pays for what he's done. We make sure he never hurts you or anyone else ever again. I nod, a flicker of hope igniting in my chest. For the first time in years, I feel like I can breathe again. Like I'm finally free. There's still a long road ahead of me, I know. The divorce, the custody battle, the criminal trial. But with Olivia by my side and the truth on my side, I know I can face anything. Greg thought he could break me, could control me forever. But he underestimated me. He underestimated the strength and resilience of a woman pushed to her limits. And now, he's going to pay the price. One way or another, I'll make sure of it. The divorce hearing is a brutal, drawn-out affair. Greg and Janice pull out all the stops, slinging mud and lies in a desperate attempt to paint me as an unfit mother. Janice takes the stand first, her face a mask of false concern. Lana has always been unstable, she says, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. She's prone to fits of hysteria, to wild mood swings. I worry for Mason's safety in her care. I clench my fists under the table, anger boiling up inside me. How dare she try to twist the truth, to make me out to be the villain in this story? But Olivia is prepared. She presents the judge with the evidence we've gathered, the photos of my bruises, the threatening messages from Greg, the financial records proving his misconduct. Mrs. Thompson, Olivia says, her voice calm and measured, can you explain why you never reported your concerns about Lana's supposed instability to the authorities or sought help for her? Janice sputters, her face turning red. I didn't want to cause trouble. I thought I could handle it myself. Olivia nods, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. I see. And can you explain why, if Lana was so unstable, you encouraged your son to marry her and start a family? Janice opens and closes her mouth like a fish out of water, unable to come up with a response. Next, it's Greg's turn on the stand. He tries to paint himself as the victim, as the long-suffering husband who only wanted to keep his family together. But Olivia is relentless. She grills him on the abuse, on the financial misconduct, on the years of control and manipulation. Mr. Thompson, she says, her voice hard as steel, can you explain to the court why you felt the need to monitor your wife's every move, to cut her off from her friends and family, to control every aspect of her life? Greg's face turns purple with rage. I was protecting her, he snarls. She's weak, she's easily led astray. I was doing what was best for her. Olivia scoffs, shaking her head. No, Mr. Thompson, you were doing what was best for you. You were exerting your power and control over a woman you saw as your property, not your partner. The judge listens to the testimony, his face impassive. But I can see the disgust in his eyes, the anger at the way I've been treated. When it's my turn to take the stand, I tell my story with a steady voice and a clear head. I talk about the abuse, the fear, the helplessness. I talk about the strength it took to break free, to fight back against the monsters who tried to break me. And then I play my trump card. I present the judge with the recordings I've been making in secret. Recordings of Greg's abuse, of Janice's manipulation, of their lies and deceit. The courtroom goes silent as my words echo through the speakers. Greg's face drains of color, and Janice looks like she's going to be sick. The judge listens to the recordings, his face growing darker by the second. When they're finished, he turns to Greg and Janice, his eyes blazing with fury. In all my years on the bench, he says, his voice shaking with anger, I have never seen a more clear-cut case of abuse and manipulation. The evidence presented here today leaves no doubt in my mind that Mrs. Thompson has been the victim of a sustained campaign of terror and control at the hands of her husband and mother-in-law. He turns to me, his face softening. Mrs. Thompson, I am so sorry for what you have endured. You have shown incredible strength and courage in the face of unimaginable adversity. I am granting you full custody of your son, as well as a significant portion of your husband's assets as compensation for the abuse you have suffered. Tears stream down my face as the weight of his words sinks in. I've won. I've beaten Greg and Janice at their own game, and I've taken back my life. I turn to Olivia, my heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you," I whisper, my voice choked with emotion. "For everything." She hugs me tight, her own eyes glistening. "You did this, Lana. You had the strength and the courage to stand up for yourself, to fight back against the monsters who tried to break you." I take a deep, shuddering breath, feeling like a weight has been lifted off my chest. For the first time in years, I feel like I can breathe again, like I'm finally free. The road ahead won't be easy, I know. There's still healing to be done, still wounds to be mended. But with Mason by my side and the truth on my side, I know I can face anything. Greg and Janice thought they could break me, could control me forever. But they underestimated me. They underestimated the strength and resilience of a woman pushed to her limits. And now, they're paying the price. One way or another, justice has been served. 10 years later, I hardly recognize the woman staring back at me in the mirror. The lines around my eyes are deeper, the gray in my hair more pronounced, but there's a lightness to my step and a joy in my heart that I never thought I'd feel again. After the divorce, I threw myself into rebuilding my life. I went back to school, got my degree in social work, and started a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping women escape abusive relationships. It wasn't easy, juggling my studies and my work with being a single mother to Mason. But every time I felt like giving up, I remembered the strength it took to leave Greg, to fight back against the monsters who tried to break me. And Mason, my beautiful, brilliant boy. He's grown into a kind, compassionate young man with a heart as big as the sky. He's the light of my life, the reason I wake up every morning with a smile on my face. We're having breakfast together one sunny Saturday morning when there's a knock at the door. I open it to find a man I barely recognize, gaunt, haggard, with a haunted look in his eyes. It takes me a moment to realize it's Greg. "What are you doing here?" I ask, my voice cold and hard. He shifts from foot to foot, unable to meet my gaze. I just wanted to see you, to talk to you." I cross my arms over my chest, my heart pounding. "We have nothing to talk about, Greg. You lost that right a long time ago." He nods, his shoulders slumping. "I know. I wanted to apologize for everything I put you through, for the way I treated you." I stare at him, my mind reeling. Is this some kind of trick, some new manipulation? But the look in his eyes is genuine, the remorse and shame palpable. "I've lost everything," he says, his voice choked with emotion. "My job, my money, my reputation. Even Janice won't speak to me anymore. I've hit rock bottom, and I know it's no one's fault but my own." I feel a flicker of satisfaction at his words, a sense of vindication, but it's tempered by a strange sense of pity, a realization that the man standing before me is a shell of his former self. "I'm sorry, Greg," I say, my voice softening, "but I can't forgive you. I can't forget what you did to me, the years of abuse and control." He nods, his eyes filling with tears. "I understand. I needed you to know that I'm sorry, that I take responsibility for my actions, and that I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be a better man." I watch as he turns and walks away, his shoulders hunched against the wind. And for a moment, I feel a flicker of something like closure, a sense that the past is finally truly behind me. I close the door and turn to find Mason standing in the hallway, his face etched with concern. "Was that Dad?" he asks, his voice trembling. I nod, my heart aching for the pain and confusion I see in his eyes. "He just wanted to apologize, to take responsibility for what he did to us." Mason is quiet for a long moment, his brow furrowed in thought. "Do you think he meant it? That he's really sorry?" I sigh, running a hand through my hair. "I don't know, honey, but what I do know is that we've built a good life for ourselves, a life filled with love and joy and purpose, and nothing and no one can take that away from us." Mason nods, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "I'm proud of you, Mom, for being so strong, for never giving up on us." I wrap my arms around him, holding him close. "I'm proud of you too, Mason, for being the kind, compassionate, amazing young man you are." We stand there for a long moment, basking in the warmth of each other's love, and as I look out the window at the bright blue sky, I feel a sense of peace wash over me, a knowledge that I've finally, truly won. Greg may have lost everything, but I've gained more than I ever dreamed possible. I've gained my freedom, my self-respect, my sense of purpose, and most importantly, I've gained a love that will last a lifetime. The love of my son and the love of myself. It's been a long, hard road to get here. But as I stand in the sunlight, my heart full and my head held high, I know that every step of the journey was worth it. I am a survivor, I am a warrior, and I am finally truly free.
The morning dew still clung to the roses when I heard the crunch of expensive heels on my garden path. I didn't need to look up to know who it was. Only one person would dare to wear Louboutins to stomp through my father's prized garden. Madeline. Her voice dripped with fake sweetness. Still playing in the dirt, I see. I continued pruning my father's white roses, the ones he'd planted for my wedding day. The wedding that had ended in divorce papers and my ex-husband running off with the woman now standing behind me. Hello, Haley. You know why I'm here. She moved closer, her shadow falling across the flower bed. The reading of the will is tomorrow, and Holden and I think it's best if we discuss things civilly. I finally turned around, wiping my soil-covered hands on my gardening apron. There's nothing to discuss. This is my father's house, his estate. Was? Haley corrected, her perfectly painted red lips curling into a smirk. And since Holden was like a son to Miles for 15 years, we believe we're entitled to our fair share. The pruning shears in my hand suddenly felt heavier. The same Holden who cheated on his daughter with his secretary? That Holden? Ancient history. Haley waved her manicured hand dismissively. Miles forgave him. They still played golf every Sunday until... She paused for dramatic effect. Well, you know. My father's death was still raw, a wound that hadn't even begun to scab over. He'd been gone just 2 weeks, and here was this woman, this vulture, circling what she thought was easy prey. My father wouldn't have left Holden anything, I said firmly, standing up to my full height. He was many things, but he wasn't stupid. Haley's fake smile faltered. We'll see about that. Your brother Isaiah seems to think differently. The mention of my brother sent a chill down my spine. We hadn't spoken since Dad's funeral, where he'd spent more time consoling Holden than his own sister. You've spoken to Isaiah? Oh, honey. Haley stepped closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. We've done more than speak. He's been very helpful. I gripped the pruning shears tighter, remembering Dad's words from years ago. The roses need a firm hand, Maddie, but never a cruel one. Even the sharpest thorns serve a purpose. Get off my property, Haley, I said quietly. Before I forget my manners. She laughed, the sound like breaking glass. Your property? That's cute. This house is worth millions, Madeline. Did you really think you'd get to keep it all to yourself? Playing house in your daddy's mansion while the rest of us get nothing? My father built this house brick by brick, I said, my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. He planted every tree, designed every room. This isn't about money. This is about legacy. Legacy? Haley snorted. Wake up, Madeline. Everything is about money. And tomorrow, when that will is read, you're going to learn that the hard way. She turned to leave, but paused at the garden gate. Oh, and you might want to start packing. Holden and I will need at least a month to renovate before we move in. As her heels clicked down the path, I looked down at the roses, their white petals now spotted with soil where my trembling hands had crushed them. Dad had always said white roses represented new beginnings, but all I could see was red. I pulled out my phone and dialed the one person I knew would understand. Aaliyah? It's me. Haley just paid me a visit. Yeah, she's exactly as bad as we thought. Can you come over? There's something about the will I need to discuss with you. My best friend's voice was firm and reassuring. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't worry, Madeline. Your father was smarter than they know. As I ended the call, I noticed a small envelope poking out from beneath one of the rose bushes, its corner damp with dew. The handwriting on it was unmistakably my father's, and it was addressed to me. I picked it up with shaking hands, wondering how long it had been waiting there, hidden among the thorns. The paper felt heavy, like it carried more than just words. Well, Dad, I whispered, turning the envelope over in my hands. Looks like you left me one last surprise. The sound of Haley's car engine faded into the distance as I stood in the garden, holding what felt like the first piece of a puzzle my father had left behind. Whatever game Haley and Holden were playing, I had a feeling they were about to learn they'd chosen the wrong opponent. Aaliyah arrived exactly when she promised, her legal briefcase in one hand and a bottle of wine in the other. "I figured we might need this," she said, holding up the wine as she walked into Dad's study. I was still holding the unopened envelope, perched on the edge of my father's leather chair. The room smelled of his pipe tobacco and old books, a scent I wasn't ready to lose to Haley's promised renovations. "You haven't opened it yet?" Aaliyah nodded at the envelope, setting her briefcase down with a heavy thunk. "I wanted to wait for you." I turned the envelope over again. "After what Haley said about Isaiah helping them, open it," Aaliyah insisted, pouring 2 generous glasses of wine. "Your father was very specific about certain things being revealed at certain times." My head snapped up. "What do you mean?" She handed me a glass. "Open the letter, Madeline." With trembling fingers, I broke the seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a small key. "Dear Maddie," I read aloud, my father's voice echoing in my head. "If you're reading this, then someone has already made a move on the estate. Knowing human nature as I do, I'm guessing it's Haley. She always did remind me of a shark, all teeth and no soul." Aaliyah snorted into her wine glass. "The key enclosed opens the bottom drawer of my desk. Inside, you'll find everything you need to protect what's yours. Remember what I taught you about chess? Sometimes you have to sacrifice a pawn to protect the queen. Love, Dad." I looked up at Aaliyah, who was already moving toward the desk. "You knew about this?" "I helped him set it up," she admitted, gesturing for me to use the key. "Your father came to me 6 months ago, right after his diagnosis. He knew exactly how things would play out." The drawer opened with a soft click. Inside was a thick manila envelope and a USB drive. "Before you look at those," Aaliyah said, sitting on the edge of the desk, "there's something you need to know about tomorrow's will reading. Your father added a codicil 3 days before he died." "A what?" "A modification to the will. And trust me, it's going to change everything." I spread the contents of the manila envelope across the desk. Photos spilled out, dozens of them. Haley meeting with someone in a dark parking lot. Holden entering a lawyer's office that wasn't Aaliyah's. Bank statements. Email printouts. Dad had them investigated? Better. Aaliyah's smile was sharp. He had them followed. That USB drive contains video footage of Haley attempting to bribe your father's nurse for information about his will 2 days before he died. My hands shook as I picked up one of the photos. "Is that Isaiah?" "Meeting with Haley 3 weeks before your father's death," Aaliyah confirmed. "But look at his face in the next photo." The second photo showed my brother leaving the meeting, his expression twisted with disgust. He was holding what looked like a check. "He kept the check as evidence," Aaliyah explained. "Brought it straight to your father. That's when Miles knew he had to act fast." "But Haley said Isaiah was helping them." "Your brother's been playing a dangerous game, Madeline. Feeding them just enough information to keep them confident, all while helping your father gather evidence of their conspiracy." I sank back into the chair, my mind spinning. "Why didn't he tell me?" "Because Haley needed to show her hand first." Aaliyah pulled out some papers from her briefcase. "Tomorrow, when I read the will, Haley and Holden are going to think they've won. The initial reading will grant them a significant portion of the estate." "What?" I stood up so fast my wine glass tipped over, staining the carpet red. "Let me finish." Aaliyah held up her hand. "That's when the codicil kicks in. Your father set up a trap, Madeline. The moment they accept the inheritance, they trigger a clause that reveals their attempted manipulation and fraud. Everything, the photos, the videos, the bribes, becomes public record." I stared at the evidence spread across the desk, understanding dawning. "He made them think they won so they'd incriminate themselves." "Exactly." Aaliyah's grin was triumphant. "The real will leaves everything to you, with a trust set up for Isaiah. Haley and Holden get nothing except a very public exposure of their true characters." "And tomorrow," Aaliyah finished her wine. We watched them walk right into the trap they set for themselves. Your father's last lesson about consequences. I picked up his letter again, running my fingers over his familiar handwriting. Even from beyond the grave, he was protecting me, teaching me, helping me fight back. One more thing, Aaliyah said softly. Isaiah asked to see you tonight. He has something else you need to know before tomorrow. I looked out the study window at the setting sun, thinking of my brother, of Haley's smug face in the garden, of all the pieces my father had carefully put in place. Tell him to come over, I said. It's time we had a family reunion. Isaiah arrived after dark, looking nothing like the confident brother who'd stood beside Holden at the funeral. His designer suit was wrinkled, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion. He hesitated at the study doorway, clutching a leather portfolio like a shield. You look terrible, I said, breaking the ice. Yeah, well, playing double agent isn't as fun as the movies make it seem. He attempted a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Can I come in? I gestured to the chair across from me. Aaliyah had left an hour ago, but the evidence of our earlier discovery still littered Dad's desk. I see you found Dad's insurance policy, Isaiah said, nodding at the photos. Why didn't you tell me what you were doing? The question came out sharper than I intended. He slumped into the chair. Because I needed to make it right. After everything with Holden, the way I treated you during the divorce. I was an idiot, Maddie. You were my brother, I corrected. You were supposed to be on my side. I know. He opened the portfolio and pulled out a check. This is what Haley offered me to testify that Dad wasn't of sound mind when he made his final will. $500,000 to betray my own sister. I stared at the check, then at my brother. But you didn't cash it. No, I took it straight to Dad. Isaiah's voice cracked. You should have seen his face, Maddie. Not angry, just disappointed. That's when he told me about his plan. The grandfather clock in the hall chimed 9 times, each dong echoing through the tense silence. There's more, Isaiah continued, pulling out a phone. I recorded everything. Every meeting, every offer, every threat. Haley, she's been planning this for months, even before Dad got sick. He pressed play. Haley's voice filled the room. Once the old man kicks it, we'll contest the will. With your testimony about his mental state and Holden's long relationship with him, we'll get everything. That bitch Madeline won't know what hit her. My hands clenched into fists. When was this? 2 months ago. But wait, there's worse. He fast-forwarded the recording. Holden's voice now. We'll sell the house, liquidate the assets. Madeline can go back to her little apartment and her pathetic gardening business. She never deserved any of this anyway. Turn it off, I whispered. Isaiah complied, then pulled out one final document. This is why I came tonight. Haley didn't just want the money, Maddie. She wanted revenge. On you. Revenge for what? For making Holden feel guilty. For making him pay alimony. He paused. For making him look bad when you caught them together. The memory hit me like a physical blow. Walking into my own bedroom, finding them there. Haley's triumphant smile as my marriage crumbled. She was his secretary for 3 years, Isaiah continued. She planned everything, worked her way into his life, into Dad's social circle. This document proves she started embezzling from Dad's company 6 months before you caught them. I snatched the paper, scanning the bank transfers and account numbers. Dad knew about this? Found out right before his diagnosis. He was building a case against her, but then the cancer... Isaiah's voice trailed off. That's when he started planning this instead. Said sometimes justice needs a different path. The codicil, I murmured. Yeah, tomorrow's going to be brutal, Maddie. They think they've got it all figured out. Haley's even hired a camera crew to document the historic moment when they take possession of the estate. Despite everything, I laughed. She hired cameras to record her own downfall? Dad would have appreciated the irony. Isaiah smiled, a real one this time. Listen, I know I can't fix the past 3 years with one night of revelations, but I want you to know I'm here now. Whatever happens tomorrow, I've got your back. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at Dad's garden silvered by moonlight. Remember when we were kids and Dad caught us fighting over that toy car? The red Corvette? Isaiah joined me at the window. He made us wash every window in the house. Said we needed to learn to see things clearly. I turned to face my brother. I see clearly now, Isaiah. I see what Dad was trying to teach us, even at the end. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. That sometimes the biggest victory isn't in winning. It's in letting your enemies defeat themselves. I finished. The grandfather clock chimed 1/4 past, reminding us that tomorrow was getting closer with each tick. You should get some rest, Isaiah said, gathering his evidence. Tomorrow's going to be one hell of a show. As I watched him leave, I touched the window pane, cool and solid under my fingers. Dad had always loved these windows. Said they were the eyes of the house, watching over his family. Tomorrow they would witness justice, served exactly the way he had planned it. The morning of the will reading dawned bright and clear. I was in Dad's study again, this time watching Aliyah arrange papers on the massive oak desk while camera equipment was set up around the room. Haley's camera crew is here, Isaiah announced, slipping through the door. You should see her out there, practicing her gracious acceptance speech. Everything ready? I asked Aliyah. She patted her briefcase. All set. The codicil is sealed in this envelope along with copies of all the evidence. Once they accept the initial terms... A commotion in the hallway cut her off. Haley's voice carried through the door, high and excited. This is where we'll put the new chandelier. The old one is so dated. Places, everyone, Aliyah muttered, straightening her suit jacket. Let the show begin. Haley swept in first, wearing a black dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. Holden followed, looking uncomfortable in his tailored suit. The camera crew trailed behind them, adjusting lights and checking angles. Madeline. Holden nodded stiffly. It was the first time he'd spoken to me directly since the divorce. Let's begin, Aliyah announced, taking her place behind Dad's desk. As Miles's attorney, I'll be reading his last will and testament, along with any additional documents he prepared before his passing. Haley practically bounced in her seat. We're ready. The initial reading went exactly as Aliyah had warned me. Dad's estate, including the house and company shares, was to be divided. 60% to me, 40% to Holden and Haley. I knew it! Haley squealed, grabbing Holden's arm. Miles loved us too much to leave us out. However, Aliyah continued, her voice cutting through Haley's celebration, there is a codicil to the will, added 3 days before Miles's death. Haley's smile faltered. A what? A modification, Holden explained, suddenly looking nervous. What kind of modification? Aliyah broke the seal on the envelope. The acceptance of any inheritance under this will is contingent upon a full investigation into certain financial irregularities discovered in the months preceding Miles's death. The room went silent. Even the cameras seemed to hold their breath. What irregularities? Haley's voice had lost its triumphant edge. Perhaps these will explain, Aliyah said, sliding the photos across the desk. Or this USB drive containing footage of attempted bribery. Or these bank statements showing systematic embezzlement from Harrison Industries. Holden grabbed one of the photos, his face draining of color. Where did you get these? Dad had quite the collection of evidence. Isaiah spoke up from his corner. Including recordings of you both planning to contest the will based on false testimony about his mental state. Haley stood up so fast her chair toppled backward. Turn those cameras off, now. Oh no, I said, standing to face her. The cameras stay. You wanted to document this historic moment, remember? You can't do this, she hissed. Holden, tell them they can't do this. But Holden was still staring at the photos, particularly one showing him entering a competitor's office with confidential company documents. The codicil is quite clear, Aliyah continued, professional as ever. Any attempt to claim inheritance automatically triggers the release of all this evidence to the proper authorities. The choice is yours. Choice? Haley laughed hysterically. What choice? You've trapped us. No, I corrected her. You trapped yourselves. Every scheme, every plot, every attempt to steal what wasn't yours, it all led to this moment. This is your fault. She whirled on Isaiah. You were supposed to help us. Isaiah shrugged. I did help, just not you. Holden, she pleaded. Do something. But Holden was already standing, straightening his tie with shaking hands. It's over, Haley. We've lost. The hell it is. I won't let that bitch win. That bitch is my daughter. Dad's voice filled the room. Everyone froze as Aaliyah pressed play on a video file. Dad's face appeared on one of the camera crew's monitors, thin but determined, recorded just days before his death. And if you're watching this, it means you've shown your true colors, just as I knew you would. Greed is a terrible teacher, but consequences are excellent students. Haley's mascara ran in black streaks as she backed toward the door. This isn't over. Actually, Aaliyah said, it is. The police are waiting in the foyer to discuss the evidence of embezzlement. I'd suggest cooperating. It might help with sentencing. As Haley and Holden were led away, the cameras still rolling, I felt Dad's presence in every corner of the room. He'd orchestrated it all, not just to protect his legacy, but to teach one final lesson about justice and patience. Well, Isaiah said into the silence, I guess those cameras caught their historic moment after all. The media circus that followed was exactly what Haley had wanted, just not in the way she'd planned. By evening, local news vans lined the street, and my phone wouldn't stop buzzing with calls from reporters. You need to see this, Isaiah said, turning up the volume on Dad's old television in the study. Haley's arrest was playing on every channel, her mascara-streaked face a stark contrast to her designer dress, as officers led her to a police car. The investigation into Harrison Industries has uncovered multiple instances of fraud. The reporter's voice droned on. Turn it off, I said, rubbing my temples. I can't watch anymore. Aaliyah burst through the door, waving her phone. It gets better. The DA just called. They found offshore accounts, dummy corporations, everything. Haley wasn't just stealing from your father's company, she was running a whole network of fraud schemes. And Holden? I asked, not sure why I still cared about my ex-husband's fate. Singing like a canary, Isaiah replied. Turns out he's not so loyal when facing serious prison time. A sharp knock at the study door made us all jump. A police detective entered, looking apologetic. Ms. Harrison, we need to discuss some additional evidence we've uncovered. More? I gestured for him to sit. What now? We found documents in Ms. West's apartment suggesting this wasn't her first attempt at this type of scheme. There are at least 3 other cases of her targeting wealthy families, though she never succeeded on this scale before. Aaliyah leaned forward. Other families? Yes. She would typically work her way into their lives through employment or social connections, then orchestrate situations to gain access to their assets. The detective pulled out a folder. Sound familiar? The secretary position, I whispered. It wasn't random. No, it wasn't. She specifically targeted your ex-husband because of his connection to your father's company. The affair was just her way in. My stomach churned. 3 years of blame and self-doubt about my failed marriage suddenly shifted perspective. There's something else, the detective continued. We found this in her personal files. It appears to be a detailed plan for after she gained control of the estate. He handed me a document that made my blood run cold. Detailed notes about accidents that could befall me after the transfer of property. Plans to frame Isaiah for financial misconduct. Even sketches of how she wanted to remodel the house, starting with destroying Dad's garden. She would have killed me, I said flatly. She never would have gotten the chance, Isaiah growled, gripping the arm of his chair. The detective nodded grimly. This evidence upgrades the charges significantly. Combined with the fraud charges and attempted bribery, she's looking at 15 to 20 years, minimum. After he left, we sat in stunned silence until Aaliyah's phone buzzed again. It's my contact at the DA's office, she said, reading the message. Holden just finished his statement. He's admitted to everything, including helping Haley access confidential company files before Dad's death. Did he know? I had to ask. About her plans for me? No, Isaiah answered, scanning the documents. According to this, she kept that part to herself. Probably knew he wouldn't have the stomach for it. A thought struck me. Dad knew, didn't he? That's why he put all this in motion. Aaliyah nodded slowly. He suspected. That's why he hired the private investigators, why he documented everything. He wasn't just protecting his legacy, he was protecting you. I walked to the window, looking out at the garden now swarming with news crews. The roses still bloomed, oblivious to the chaos their previous admirer had planned. We should release a statement, Isaiah suggested. Control the narrative before Haley's lawyers try to spin this. Already drafted. Aaliyah pulled out her laptop. A simple statement about cooperating with authorities and requesting privacy during this difficult time. Professional, dignified, everything Haley wasn't. Dad would like that, I said, managing a small smile. There's one more thing, Isaiah said, pulling an envelope from his jacket. I found this in Dad's personal safe. It's marked after justice is served. My hands shook as I opened it, recognizing Dad's handwriting once again. My dear Maddie, if you're reading this, then the truth has finally come to light. Don't let this experience harden your heart. The garden still needs tending, and life still needs living. I didn't set this trap just for justice. I did it so you could be free. Free from doubt, free from fear, and free to bloom again. Love, Dad. Outside, the reporters continued their live broadcasts, telling the world about the scandal, the arrests, the betrayal. But inside the study, surrounded by the evidence of my father's love and foresight, I finally felt something I hadn't experienced since finding Holden with Haley 3 years ago. Peace. So, Isaiah said, breaking the silence. What now? I looked at the roses outside, then at my brother and best friend. Now, we rebuild. Together. The preliminary hearing came faster than any of us expected. 1 month after the will reading, I found myself sitting in a courtroom, watching Haley and Holden being led in wearing orange jumpsuits, a far cry from their designer clothes. All rise, the bailiff called out. Aaliyah squeezed my hand as we stood. She'd insisted on being both my lawyer and moral support, saying some moments required both legal expertise and friendship. You don't have to speak today, she whispered. The evidence speaks for itself. But I knew I had to. Dad's last letter had said not to let this harden my heart, and staying silent felt too much like fear. Haley's eyes locked onto mine as she passed our bench. The hatred in them was palpable, but something else flickered there too. Desperation. Her lawyer had been trying to negotiate a plea deal, but the DA wasn't budging. Not with the mountain of evidence against her. Your Honor, the prosecutor began. The state would like to enter into evidence Exhibits A through F, documenting a pattern of systematic fraud and conspiracy spanning 3 years. I watched as they displayed the photos, the bank statements, the recordings. Haley's face grew paler with each new piece of evidence. Holden just stared at his hands, shoulders slumped in defeat. The state calls Madeline to the stand. Walking to the witness box felt like crossing an ocean. I could feel everyone's eyes on me. The journalists scribbling in their notebooks, the jury leaning forward in anticipation, Haley's gaze burning into my back. Please state your name for the record. Madeline Harrison. Can you tell us about your relationship with the defendants? I took a deep breath, looking straight at Haley. Holden was my husband for 15 years. Haley was his secretary, and the woman he had an affair with. And after your divorce? They married 6 months later. Then they started visiting my father, building a relationship with him while he was sick. Objection. Haley's lawyer stood. Relevance? Goes to motive, Your Honor, the prosecutor countered. Shows the systematic nature of their plan. Overruled. Continue. I described everything. The visits, the manipulation, Haley's threats in the garden, the evidence Dad had collected. With each word, I could see Haley's carefully constructed facade crumbling. Ms. Harrison, the prosecutor held up the documents found in Haley's apartment. When did you become aware of these plans regarding your safety? Objection. Haley's lawyer practically shouted. "Those documents are circumstantial." "Your Honor, these documents detail specific plans to harm the witness after gaining control of the estate." The judge peered at Haley over his glasses. "Overruled." "I learned about them after their arrest," I answered, my voice steady. "My father suspected something like this might happen. That's why he gathered all the evidence, why he changed his will. He was protecting me even after he was gone." Haley suddenly stood up, her handcuffs rattling. "He was a manipulative old man who couldn't stand to see his precious daughter lose anything. This whole thing is a setup." "Ms. West, sit down," the judge ordered. "You think you've won?" Haley shouted at me. "You think this is over? I made your husband leave you once, I destroyed your marriage, and I'll find a way to destroy everything else too." The courtroom erupted in chaos. Bailiffs rushed to restrain Haley as she continued screaming threats. Holden looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. "Order!" The judge's gavel cracked like thunder. "Remove the defendant." As they dragged Haley away, still shouting, I caught Isaiah's eye in the gallery. He gave me a subtle nod. Everything she'd just said had been caught on the court record, destroying any chance of sympathy from the jury. The judge called a recess, and Aliyah hurried me out of the courtroom. In the hallway, reporters clamored for comments, but she expertly steered me past them. "Well," she said once we were safely in a private room, "I'd say that outburst just sealed their fate." "Did you see Holden's face?" Isaiah joined us, closing the door on the media circus outside. "He finally saw her for what she really is." I sank into a chair, exhaustion hitting me all at once. Dad knew. He knew exactly how she would react when cornered. "Because people like that can't stand losing control," Aliyah said, pulling out her phone. "The DA's texting me already. They want to move forward with additional charges based on her threats in court." "How much time is she looking at now?" 25 to 30 years minimum. Holden might get less with his cooperation, but he's still looking at 10 to 15. I thought about Dad's roses, still blooming in the garden he'd loved. He always said the truth finds its way to the light eventually. "Speaking of truth," Isaiah said, "there's something else you need to know about Dad's evidence. Something we found in his personal safe this morning." Back in Dad's study, Isaiah pulled out a weathered leather journal. The police found this when they were doing their final sweep of Haley's apartment. It was hidden in a false bottom of her desk drawer. "What is it?" I reached for the journal, but Isaiah held it back. "Before you read this, you need to understand. Dad knew about this journal. It's why he was so certain about Haley's intentions." Aliyah leaned forward. "Is this what I think it is?" "Her playbook," Isaiah confirmed. "Detailed accounts of every family she's targeted, every scheme she's run, including her original plans for us." He opened the journal to a marked page and began reading. "The Harrison family presents the perfect opportunity. Wealthy patriarch, strained family relationships, naive daughter who trusts too easily. The husband is the weak link, easily manipulated with flattery and attention." My stomach churned. "Stop. You need to hear this, Maddie." Isaiah continued reading. Phase 1 complete, marriage destroyed. Phase 2, isolate the daughter from her support system. Phase 3, gain the father's trust. Final phase, eliminate all obstacles permanently. "That's when Dad confronted her, isn't it?" I asked, remembering Dad's sudden insistence on updating his will. Aliyah nodded. "He showed me this journal 3 months ago. That's when we started building the case against her." "But there's more," Isaiah said, flipping to another section. "She wasn't working alone. There's a whole network of people involved in these schemes. Names, dates, bank accounts, everything." A sharp knock interrupted us. The detective from earlier entered, looking grimmer than before. "We've been going through Ms. West's contacts," he announced. "Found something interesting about her past. She's not who she claims to be." He laid out a series of documents on Dad's desk. Birth certificates, passports, driver's licenses, all with different names but the same face. "Her real name is Margaret Phillips. She's wanted in 3 states for similar schemes. The FBI's been looking for her for years." "Margaret Phillips?" The name hit me like a physical blow. The woman who was convicted of killing that businessman in Florida? His death was ruled an accident. The detective corrected. But yes, same person. She served 5 years for fraud, got out, changed her identity, and started over. Your father was her biggest target yet. Aaliyah was already on her phone. I'm calling the DA. This changes everything. With these priors, she's looking at life in prison. There's something else, the detective added. We found this in her safety deposit box. He handed me a USB drive. It's footage of your father confronting her about the journal. Thought you might want to see it. With shaking hands, I plugged the drive into Dad's computer. His face filled the screen, sitting in this very study, looking directly at Haley. I know what you're planning. Dad's voice was steel. I've read your little journal. Quite the career you've had, Margaret. Haley's face on the screen went white. How did you really think I wouldn't investigate the woman trying to destroy my family? I've known who you are since the day you started working for my company. Then why did I let you continue? Because sometimes the best way to catch a snake is to let it think it's winning. Dad leaned forward. You're finished, Margaret. Everything you've done, everyone you've hurt, it ends here. You're dying. Haley Margaret spat. You can't stop me. Dad's laugh was cold. My dear, I already have. You just don't know it yet. The video ended, leaving us in stunned silence. He knew, I whispered. He knew everything, right from the start. And he built an airtight case, Aaliyah added. One that would protect you and expose her entire network. The detective gathered his documents. The FBI wants to talk to you tomorrow. With this journal and your father's evidence, we can take down her whole organization. After he left, I walked to Dad's chair, running my hand along the worn leather. He let her think she was winning, all while making sure she'd never hurt anyone again. Classic Dad. Isaiah smiled. Always playing the long game. Aaliyah's phone buzzed. The DA just approved the new charges. They're upgrading it to a federal case. Haley, or Margaret, will never see the outside of a prison again. I picked up Dad's journal from his desk, the one he'd kept all his life, and opened it to his last entry. Sometimes justice takes patience. Sometimes it takes sacrifice. But most importantly, it takes faith in the truth. Maddie will understand when the time comes. The garden will bloom again, stronger than before. The preliminary hearing resumes tomorrow. Aaliyah said softly. Are you ready to finish this? I looked at the evidence spread across the desk, at Dad's journal, at the garden beyond the window where all this began. Yes, I said. It's time to end this. For Dad, for everyone she's ever hurt. And for you, Isaiah added. Mostly for you. The gavel's final crack echoed through the courtroom like thunder. In light of the overwhelming evidence and the additional federal charges, this court sentences Margaret Phillips, also known as Haley West, to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Haley, Margaret, stood rigid in her orange jumpsuit, all traces of her former polished facade gone. When they led her past our bench, she stopped, turning to face me one last time. I hope you're happy, she hissed. You've ruined everything. No, I replied calmly. You did that yourself. The only difference is that this time your target fought back. The bailiff pulled her away as she tried to respond. Behind her, Holden was already being led out to begin his own 15-year sentence. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us, but Aaliyah's firm voice cut through the chaos. My client has no comment except to say that justice has been served, not just for her family, but for all the families affected by these crimes. Back at the house, Isaiah was waiting with a surprise. The FBI finished processing Dad's study. They found this hidden in his desk. He handed me a small box. Inside was a single key and a note. For when justice blooms, check the greenhouse. The greenhouse had always been Dad's private sanctuary, a place he retreated to when he needed to think. I hadn't been inside since his death. Want us to come with you? Aaliyah asked. I shook my head. I need to do this alone. The greenhouse key turned smoothly in the lock. Inside, the air was warm and thick with the scent of blooming flowers. Dad's prized orchids still thrived, clearly tended by someone, probably Isaiah, during these past months. In the center of the greenhouse stood Dad's workbench, and on it, a large envelope with my name on it. Inside was a deed and another letter. My dearest Maddie, by now justice has been served and the truth has come to light. But justice wasn't the only thing I wanted to cultivate. In this greenhouse, I grew more than flowers. I grew hope. Hope for you to find your strength again, to bloom despite the shadows others cast. The deed in this envelope is for the vacant lot next to your old flower shop. I bought it the day after I confronted Margaret. It's time for Harrison Gardens to grow beyond our home. Your talent for bringing beauty into the world shouldn't be limited to one garden. Remember what I taught you. Some flowers bloom best after a frost. You've weathered your winter, Maddie. Now it's time to bloom again. Love always, Dad. I walked back to the house in a daze, clutching the deed and letter. Isaiah and Aaliyah were waiting in the kitchen. Well? Isaiah asked. I spread the deed on the counter. He bought me the lot next to my old shop. He wanted me to expand the business. That's not all he did. Aaliyah pulled out her tablet. The Harrison Gardens trademark was registered 6 months ago. He set up everything. Business plans, permits, funding. All it needs is you. And us, Isaiah added. I've learned a thing or two about gardening these past months. Someone had to keep his orchids alive. A knock at the door interrupted us. The detective entered, looking pleased. Just thought you'd want to know. 3 more victims of Margaret's schemes have come forward. With their testimony and your father's evidence, we're looking at closing over a dozen cold cases. Dad would have liked that, I said. He always believed every truth finds its light eventually. Speaking of truth, Isaiah said after the detective left, I found something else while tending the greenhouse. He pulled out his phone and showed me a photo of a small plaque hidden among the orchids. The inscription read, For Maddie, who taught me that the strongest flowers grow in broken places. He put that there right after my divorce, I realized. He knew even then that I'd find my way back. So, Aaliyah said, pulling out her legal pad with a familiar glint in her eye. Should I start drawing up the business papers for Harrison Gardens? I looked out at Dad's garden, where the roses still bloomed despite everything that had happened. Beyond them, I could see the future he'd planned for me. Not just justice, but growth. Not just survival, but flourishing. Yes, I said, feeling stronger than I had in years. It's time to grow something new. To Dad. Isaiah raised his coffee mug. To justice, Aaliyah added, raising hers. I picked up my own mug, thinking of orchids and roses, of truth and time, of endings and beginnings. To blooming again. Through the window, the garden glowed in the afternoon sun, each flower a testament to Dad's belief that beauty can grow even in life's hardest soil. He'd given me more than justice. He'd given me back my future, one bloom at a time.
The numbers swam before my eyes as I stared at my laptop screen. $3,000 transferred to an account I'd never seen before. Another $4,000 the month before that. The transactions stretched back almost a year, each one a precise knife twist in my gut. I'm Emily, and until 10 minutes ago, I thought I knew everything about my husband's finances. We'd built our life on transparency, or so I believed. The shared spreadsheets, the joint accounts, the careful planning, all of it now felt like an elaborate joke at my expense. Hey, babe, have you seen my charcoal pencils? Tom's voice floated down from his studio upstairs. The same voice that had promised me honesty 3 years ago at the altar. The same voice that had apparently been lying to me for months. No, I called back, my own voice steady, despite the tremor in my hands. Tom, could you come down here for a minute? The wooden stairs creaked under his feet. He appeared in the doorway, paint-splattered jeans, and that easy smile I used to find so charming. Now it just made my stomach turn. What's up? He leaned against the doorframe, casual as ever. Want to explain these transfers to an account under your parents' name? The smile flickered, died. His shoulders tensed, and for a moment, he looked like a deer caught in headlights. Then the mask slipped back into place. Oh, that. Mom and Dad have been having some trouble with their mortgage. I've been helping them out a bit. A bit? I turned the laptop toward him. $7,000 last month alone. Without telling me. They're my parents, Emily. What was I supposed to do, let them lose their house? You were supposed to talk to me. We're supposed to be partners. He ran a hand through his hair, leaving a streak of blue paint near his temple. You wouldn't have understood. You've always been weird about money. Weird about money? The laugh that escaped me didn't sound like my own. Is that what you call wanting to know where our savings are going? They raised me, Emily. They gave me everything. I owe them. And what about what you owe me? What about our future? I scrolled through the transactions again. This is our down payment for a house. Our emergency fund. Our future children's college fund. Their family, he said, as if that explained everything. I'm your family too. Or at least I thought I was. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and I caught his mother's name on the screen. Of course. Margaret always had impeccable timing. I need to take this, he said, already turning away. No. I slammed the laptop shut. You need to explain why you've been lying to me for months. I haven't been lying. I just didn't want to worry you. Didn't want to worry me? The words tasted bitter. Or didn't want me to stop you from bankrolling your parents' lifestyle? His face hardened. You don't understand my relationship with them. You're right. I don't understand lying to your spouse. I don't understand stealing our future to fund your parents' present. His phone buzzed again. This time he answered it, turning his back to me. Hi, Mom. Yeah, I'm on my way. Just need to grab those papers. I sat there, watching my husband walk away from our marriage one step at a time, up those creaking stairs to his studio. The truth hit me like a physical blow. I wasn't just fighting Tom's deception. I was fighting against Margaret's influence, against years of manipulation I'd been too blind to see. The laptop screen glowed accusingly in the growing darkness. Somewhere upstairs, Tom was probably already arranging another transfer, another betrayal dressed up as filial duty. Fine. If this was how they wanted to play it, I could play too. But they were about to learn that I played to win. The doorbell chimed just as I finished hiding the bank statements in my home office. Margaret's silhouette loomed through the frosted glass, her shadow stretching across our welcome mat like an omen. Emily, darling. She swept in, designer purse swinging from her arm, bringing with her the cloying scent of expensive perfume. I brought lunch. We need to talk about the garden party next weekend. I forced a smile, knowing exactly what was coming. Every conversation with Margaret was a carefully choreographed dance of criticism wrapped in sugar-coated concern. Actually, I have a work deadline. Nonsense. She was already unpacking containers onto my kitchen counter. Family comes first. That's something modern women seem to forget these days. The way she said modern women made it sound like a disease. I watched her arrange the food with military precision, noting how she'd brought enough for 3, despite knowing Tom was at his studio. Tom tells me you've been asking questions about our financial arrangements. Her voice was casual, but her eyes were sharp as she handed me a plate. I hope you understand how important family support is. Support should go both ways, Margaret. Of course it does, dear. She settled up my kitchen island like she owned it. We've given Tom everything, his education, his artistic opportunities. Now it's natural for him to want to give back. My fork scraped against the plate. With our joint savings? Marriage is about sharing, isn't it? She dabbed her lips with a napkin. Though I suppose that's hard to understand when you're so focused on your career. The word dripped with disdain. I thought about the hidden bank statements, about Tom's betrayal, about all the times Margaret had undermined me while smiling to my face. Actually, I understand sharing perfectly. What I don't understand is secrecy. Oh, Emily. She reached across the counter to pat my hand. I resisted the urge to pull away. You're making such a fuss over nothing. Tom's just being a good son. Surely you don't want to come between him and his family? I am his family. Of course you are, dear. For now. She smiled, showing too many teeth. But blood is thicker than water, isn't it? My phone buzzed, a message from Tom. Mom says you're being difficult about the money. Can we talk later? Of course. She'd probably texted him the moment she sat down. Margaret, I said, setting down my fork. Do you know how much Tom has been transferring to your account? Money is such a vulgar topic of conversation. Not when it's my money being spent without my knowledge. Her smile faltered. Tom knows what he's doing. He doesn't need his wife questioning his decisions about his family. Our family. Our decisions. Our money. You're being very ungrateful, Emily. She stood, gathering her things. After everything we've done for you both. Robert and I have always treated you like a daughter. No, I said quietly. You've treated me like a threat. She paused at the door, her face a perfect mask of hurt confusion. I can see you're upset. We'll discuss this when you're thinking more clearly. The garden party is at 2 on Saturday. Wear something appropriate this time. The door clicked shut behind her, but her presence lingered like a bad smell. My phone buzzed again, Tom asking why I was upsetting his mother. Of course he'd take her side. He always did. I opened my laptop, pulling up our joint account again. A new transaction had posted while Margaret was here, another $2,000, transferred not 30 minutes ago. She must have texted Tom during lunch, and he jumped to do her bidding without a second thought. My hand shook as I took screenshots of everything. 3 years of marriage, and I'd never seen what was right in front of me. I wasn't just fighting financial betrayal, I was fighting a carefully constructed system of control. With Margaret pulling the strings and Tom dancing to her tune. Fine. If they wanted to play family politics, I could play too. But first, I needed to make a call. I picked up my phone and dialed. Samantha? I need your help. It's time to start planning my exit strategy. The gallery opening should have been Tom's moment of triumph. Instead, I stood in the corner, clutching a glass of cheap wine, watching my husband lie through his teeth about our financial situation. The series sold remarkably well, he told a potential buyer, gesturing at the abstract canvases lining the walls. Almost everything's been claimed already. I knew better. I'd seen the real sales figures that morning, exactly 2 pieces sold, and at half the asking price. The rest was fiction, just like our marriage. Emily. Margaret's voice cut through the crowd. She glided toward me in an expensive new dress, Robert trailing behind her like a well-trained shadow. Darling, why are you hiding back here? Come celebrate Tom's success. Success. Right. I took another sip of wine, remembering the credit card statement I'd discovered that morning. $20,000 in new charges, gallery rental, catering, promotional materials. All on our joint card, all without a word to me. The show looks wonderful, I said, the lies tasting bitter on my tongue. Of course it does. We always knew Tom would make it as an artist. Margaret beamed. Though it helped that Robert and I knew the right people to invite tonight. And the new car in your driveway? Did the right people help with that too? Her smile flickered. Robert suddenly found the floor fascinating. Tom insisted, she said. After all we've done to support his career, it's the least he could do. The least he could do. With our money. Our future. I watched Tom across the room, charming another potential buyer, with that easy smile I used to trust. Emily. David from work appeared at my elbow, a welcome interruption. I didn't expect to see you here. David. I didn't know you were interested in art. I'm not, usually. But when I saw Tom's name in the paper. He glanced at Margaret, who was watching our interaction with narrowed eyes. Could I borrow you for a minute? There's something you should see. He led me to a quiet corner, pulling out his phone. Remember that audit I mentioned last week? Well, I found something interesting about Thompson Gallery Services. My heart stopped. That was the company Tom had insisted he needed for his art business, the one I'd helped him set up 3 years ago. What about it? The payments don't match the reported income. Not even close. David showed me the screen. Either your husband's the worst accountant in history, or he's hiding money. The pieces clicked into place, the missing funds, the suspicious transfers, Margaret's new car. Emily? Tom's voice behind me. I turned to find him staring at David's phone, his face pale. What are you doing? Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing. I held up the phone. Want to explain these numbers? This isn't the time or place. When is the time, Tom? When the account is completely empty? When your parents have bled us dry? Margaret materialized beside him. Emily, you're making a scene. No, Mother, I spat the word like poison. I'm finally seeing the scene you've been directing all along. The gallery had gone quiet. Faces turned toward us, hungry for drama. Everything I've done has been for our family, Tom said, reaching for my arm. I stepped back. No. Everything you've done has been for their family. I was just the convenient bank account. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I set down my wine glass with deliberate care. I understand that while I was working 60-hour weeks to support your art, you were funneling money to your parents. I understand that every time I sacrificed for our future, you were sacrificing our future for them. Emily, please. I'm done. The words came out calm, certain. Done with the lies, done with the manipulation, done with all of it. I turned to David. Thank you for showing me this. I'll need copies for my lawyer. Margaret gasped. Tom's face crumpled. But for the first time in months, I felt light, free, certain. I walked out of the gallery into the cool night air, leaving behind the wreckage of my marriage and the sweet satisfaction of finally speaking the truth. My phone buzzed, Samantha, right on cue. Is it done? Yes, I said, smiling into the darkness. It's done. And I'm just getting started. Samantha's kitchen had always been my safe haven, but tonight even the familiar scent of her signature chai couldn't calm my racing thoughts. 3 missed calls from Tom, 6 from Margaret, and 1 very interesting email from David about Thompson Gallery Services financial records. They'd been living like royalty, I said, scrolling through the documentation David had sent. 5-star restaurants, luxury vacations, spa weekends, all while Tom told me we needed to tighten our belts for his art career. Samantha set a steaming mug in front of me. Have you talked to a lawyer yet? Tomorrow morning. I wrapped my hands around the warm ceramic. But there's something else. What? The mortgage payments Tom claimed he was making for his parents? Their house was paid off 3 years ago. Before our wedding. Samantha's eyes widened. So where did all that money really go? My phone buzzed again, Tom. I silenced it, but not before seeing his message, please come home. We can fix this. I'll tell you everything. You're not actually considering it, are you? Samantha asked, reading my expression. I don't know what I'm considering anymore. I pushed away from the counter, pacing. 3 years, Sam. 3 years of lies, manipulation, and theft. And you know what the worst part is? I still love him. How pathetic is that? It's not pathetic, it's human. She paused, choosing her words carefully. But love isn't enough when there's no trust. My phone lit up with a text from David, found something else. Can we meet tomorrow after your lawyer appointment? Emily. Samantha's voice was gentle but firm. What's your endgame here? Revenge? Reconciliation? You need to decide. Before I could answer, someone knocked at her front door. Through the window, I caught a glimpse of Margaret's perfectly coiffed hair. How did she? Tom must have tracked your phone, Samantha said, already moving to block the door. You don't have to talk to her. But Margaret's voice carried through anyway. Emily, darling, please. This family falling apart is breaking Tom's heart. He hasn't eaten, hasn't slept. I felt the familiar pull of guilt, the urge to smooth things over. Then I remembered the financial records, the lies, the years of manipulation. Emily's not available, Samantha called through the door. And if you don't leave, I'm calling the police. This doesn't concern you, Margaret snapped. Emily, think about what you're throwing away. Think about Tom's career, his future. His future? I moved to the door, anger burning away uncertainty. What about my future? The one you've been systematically stealing? We can explain everything, Margaret's voice softened. Come home. We'll talk it through as a family. Family? I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. Is that what you call people you exploit? Silence from the other side of the door. Then, Roberts had a heart attack. My hand froze on the doorknob. Samantha grabbed my arm, shaking her head. She's lying, she whispered. It's manipulation. He's asking for you, Margaret continued. The doctors say. I yanked open the door. Margaret stood there, perfectly composed, no signs of distress or hospital visits on her designer outfit. Robert's fine, isn't he? I said quietly. This is just another lie. She straightened, mask slipping. Sometimes we do what's necessary to protect our family. No. You do what's necessary to control your family. There's a difference. You ungrateful. Goodbye, Margaret. I closed the door in her face, turning back to Samantha. I think I just found my endgame. Which is? They wanted to play family? I pulled out my phone, pulling up David's message. Let's see how they handle having their perfect family facade torn apart in public. Every lie, every manipulation, every stolen dollar, all of it exposed. Emily. No more guilt. No more manipulation. I typed a quick response to David, meeting confirmed. Bring everything you've found. Through the window, I watched Margaret retreat to her luxury car, the one my money had helped buy. Soon she'd learn that karma wasn't just a concept. It was coming for all of them, and I was going to be its delivery system. The lawyer's office felt too small, too warm, as David spread the documents across the mahogany desk. Each paper was another nail in the coffin of my marriage, another revelation that made my hands shake. Tax fraud, David said quietly. Not just misappropriation of funds. They've been using your joint business to launder money for years. My wedding ring caught the fluorescent light as I reached for the papers. 3 years of marriage reduced to spreadsheets and bank statements. How much? Close to $500,000. He hesitated. Emily, this isn't just about divorce anymore. This is criminal. My phone vibrated, another message from Tom, please come home. Mom's hysterical. Dad's threatening to disown me. We can fix this. I switched it off. What are my options? I asked the lawyer, Catherine Mills, who'd been silently taking notes. We can file criminal charges, she said, but that means public record. Everything comes out, the fraud, the manipulation, all of it. Including my name on those business documents, I added. I signed them too. Under false pretenses, David interjected. We have proof Tom misrepresented. A knock at the door interrupted him. Catherine's assistant stepped in, looking uncomfortable. I'm sorry, but there's a Margaret Thompson insisting on speaking with Emily. She says it's about Robert's health. That trick again? I started to refuse, but David held up his hand. Let her in. You need to hear this. Margaret swept in like she owned the place, but I caught the cracks in her facade, smudged mascara, trembling hands. Emily, you have to stop this madness. Her voice cracked. Robert. The stress. He's had a real heart attack this time. Like the fake one you invented yesterday? This is different. He's in intensive care. The doctor said. Mrs. Thompson, Catherine interrupted, are you aware that threatening or attempting to manipulate my client could be considered harassment? Margaret's mask slipped completely. You think you're so clever, don't you? Digging up our private affairs, threatening our family's reputation? What about Tom's career? His future? What about my future? I stood, anger finally overwhelming caution. The one you stole? We gave you everything. A place in our family, connections. You gave me lies. I picked up one of the documents. Like this vacation to the Maldives last spring? When Tom told me he was at an art retreat? She paled. That's not. Were these spa weekends? The shopping sprees? All while I worked overtime to support your son's struggling artist lifestyle? Emily, David warned softly, but I was beyond stopping. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice steady, despite my racing heart. You're going to sign a confession admitting to the fraud. All of you, Robert, and Tom. You're going to repay every penny you stole from me. Or I go public with everything. You wouldn't dare. It would destroy Tom. Like you destroyed my trust? My marriage? My financial security? She reached for her phone. I'm calling Tom. Go ahead. I spread the documents across the desk. Tell him to bring his checkbook. And a pen. Margaret's hand froze over her phone. For the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. You're bluffing, she whispered. I pulled out my own phone, pulling up the local newspaper's contact information. Want to bet your country club membership on that? Your social standing? Your freedom? The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Then Margaret did something I'd never seen before. She crumpled into a chair and began to cry. What do you want? She asked between sobs. I looked at Catherine, who nodded slightly. Everything, I said. And you have 24 hours to decide. As Margaret fled the office, David touched my arm. Are you sure about this? I stared at the documents scattered across the desk, each one a reminder of 3 years of lies. No, I admitted. But I'm sure about one thing, they're about to learn that Karma takes Visa, MasterCard, and cashier's checks. The game was changing. And this time I was writing the rules. The moving truck idled in our driveway as I unlocked the front door for the last time. 24 hours had passed since my ultimatum, and the Thompson family's response had been silence. Pure, calculated silence. Until now. Tom sat at our kitchen table, head in his hands. Margaret stood by the window, arms crossed, while Robert, apparently recovered from his heart attack, leaned against the counter. You're really doing this? Tom's voice cracked. I set my box of packing supplies on the counter. The movers will be in soon. You might want to clear out. Emily. Robert stepped forward, his usual passivity replaced with something harder. We've spoken to our lawyers. They say you're equally liable for any financial irregularities. Mutual assured destruction? I laughed. That's your play? We're trying to protect our family, Margaret snapped. Your family? I pulled out my phone, showing them the screen. Like these photos of your Maldives vacation? The one where Tom was supposedly at an art retreat? The society pages would love these. Tom's head snapped up. You wouldn't. Try me. The movers appeared in the doorway. I gestured them toward the stairs, but Margaret blocked their path. This is still our house. Actually, I cut in, it's not. Check the deed. I bought it with my income while Tom was struggling to launch his career. You vindictive little. Mom. Tom stood suddenly. Can you give us a minute? Margaret opened her mouth to protest, but Robert touched her arm. They left, Margaret's heels clicking against the hardwood like tiny hammers. I loved you, Tom said quietly once we were alone. I still love you. Love doesn't empty bank accounts. I can explain everything. Save it. I turned to the movers. Start upstairs. Master bedroom. Tom grabbed my arm as I tried to pass. Please. Just listen. Mom and Dad. They sacrificed everything for my art. When they needed help, they manipulated you into stealing from your wife. I jerked away. And you let them. We can fix this. Pay you back. With what money? The gallery's failing, Tom. Your parents are broke. And you. I gestured around our house, at all the things we'd built together. You never really wanted this, did you? A real marriage, a partnership. You wanted a bank account with a pulse. His face crumpled. That's not fair. Neither is fraud. The movers thundered down the stairs with our bedroom furniture, my furniture now. Tom watched them carry out pieces of our life together, each item a silent accusation. If you do this, he said, voice low, if you expose everything, you'll destroy us all. Including yourself. I pulled out an envelope. Then signed a confession. Admit what you and your parents did. Pay me back, and I'll keep quiet. You know we can't afford. Sell the vacation house. Margaret's jewelry. Your father's collector cars. I stepped closer. Or I press charges, and everyone learns how the respected Thompson family has been operating. Emily. Your choice, Tom. But choose fast. My lawyer's waiting. He stared at the envelope, hands shaking. Then Margaret burst back in. Don't you dare sign anything. She snatched the envelope. We'll fight this. We'll. You'll what? I turned to the movers. Take everything except his art supplies. Those were bought with stolen money anyway. Margaret ripped the envelope to shreds. You think you've won? We'll destroy you. Every connection, every opportunity. Mom, stop. No. She needs to learn. I walked out while they argued, leaving them to their mutual destruction. Outside, David waited in his car, ready to follow the moving truck to my new place. You okay? He asked as I slid into the passenger seat. I watched Tom and Margaret's silhouettes through the window, still fighting, still trapped in their toxic dance. 3 years of my life gone, my financial security in shambles, my reputation potentially ruined. No, I admitted. But I will be. I pulled out my phone and opened the email I drafted to the local newspaper. My finger hovered over send as David started the car. Sometimes karma needed a little push. The newspaper headline hit like a bomb. Local artist family accused of financial fraud. My finger trembled over the screen as social media notifications flooded my phone. The Thompson family's carefully constructed facade was crumbling, one share at a time. I hadn't pressed send on that email. Someone else had beaten me to it. My new apartment's doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Tom, looking haunted. Margaret stood behind him, her perfect makeup unable to hide her rage. I opened the door, but blocked the entrance. How did you find me? David, Tom said quietly. He thought we should talk. Of course. David's misplaced sense of fairness. I'd have to deal with that betrayal later. There's nothing to discuss. You destroyed us, Margaret hissed. Are you happy now? I didn't publish that story. Liar. She tried to push past me, but I held my ground. Robert did. The words hung in the air like smoke. Tom's face went slack with shock. Margaret grabbed the doorframe for support. What? Check your phone, I said. He's probably confessed to everything by now. Tom pulled out his phone, hands shaking. His father's message was there, just as I'd predicted. I'd received my own copy an hour ago. Dad would never. He stopped reading, color draining from his face. Turns out your father has a conscience, I said. Unlike some people. Margaret snatched the phone, her carefully manicured nails clicking against the screen. As she read, her mask finally cracked completely. That weak-willed fool, she spat. After everything I've done for this family. Everything you've done? Tom's voice cracked. Mom, you're the one who told me to hide the transfers from Emily. You're the one who. I was protecting you. Your art, your future. My future? He laughed, bitter and hollow. Look around, Mom. My marriage is over. My reputation is ruined. The gallery's finished. What future? I watched them unravel, feeling strangely empty. This was my revenge, served not by my hand but by karma itself. We can fix this, Margaret insisted, turning to me. Emily, if you just tell everyone it was a misunderstanding. Like you told everyone Robert's heart attack was real? She flinched. Or how about the art sales you faked? The tax records you doctored? I pulled out my phone. Should I keep going? Please, Tom whispered. Emily, I'm sorry. I'll do anything. It's too late. I stepped back into my apartment. Robert's confession is just the beginning. The police have everything. Margaret's face contorted. You vindictive little. Mom, stop. Tom grabbed her arm. Haven't you done enough? For the first time, I saw Tom stand up to his mother. Too little, too late. I loved you, I told him quietly. But love without trust is just another form of manipulation. You taught me that. Emily. Goodbye, Tom. I started to close the door, then paused. Oh, and Margaret? The country club called. They're revoking your membership. Apparently, fraud doesn't fit their image. Her scream of rage was cut off by the closing door. I leaned against it, listening to their arguing voices fade down the hallway. My phone buzzed, a message from Robert, it's done. I'm sorry for everything. The police have my full statement. Another buzz, David, I'm sorry I told them where to find you. But you needed this closure. And finally, Samantha, you okay? I looked around my new apartment, at the boxes still waiting to be unpacked. At the fresh start I'd bought with 3 years of pain and betrayal. No, I typed back. But I will be. I walked to the window, watching Tom help his sobbing mother into their car, no, her car, bought with my money. Soon they'd learn just how expensive karma could be. The Thompson family was about to discover that sometimes the greatest revenge isn't what you do to others, it's letting them destroy themselves while you walk away free. The last box from my old life arrived on my doorstep, unexpected, unasked for. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, lay my wedding album and a letter in Tom's messy scrawl. I set the album aside without opening it and unfolded the letter. The words blurred, then sharpened. Emily. Dad took a plea deal. Mom's facing trial. The gallery's finished. You won. Or maybe we all lost. I don't know anymore. My phone buzzed, Samantha, sending me a link to another news article. Margaret Thompson, society maven, charged with financial fraud. The mighty had fallen, their empire of lies, crumbling to dust. I crumpled Tom's letter, but couldn't quite throw it away. Not yet. The doorbell rang. David stood there, holding coffee and looking uncertain. Thought you might want company, he said, then noticed the box. Oh. Bad timing? Perfect timing, actually. I grabbed my coat. Let's go somewhere else. We walked to the park where Tom had proposed, though I didn't tell David that. The autumn air carried the scent of endings and beginnings. Robert called me, I said, watching a family play frisbee nearby. He's testifying against Margaret. says Tom finally moved out of their house. Are you okay? I considered the question, really considered it. I thought revenge would feel better than this. But I didn't actually do anything. They destroyed themselves. I just stopped protecting them from the consequences. A jogger passed, leaves crunching under her feet. In another life, that could have been me, running from my problems instead of facing them. The detective handling their case called, I continued. Asked if I wanted to press additional charges. And? I said no. I sipped my coffee, letting the warmth spread through my chest. Enough people have been burned by this fire. David nodded, understanding what I wasn't saying. Sometimes the best revenge was simply walking away, head held high. My phone buzzed again, an email from my lawyer. The divorce was final. No contests, no delays. Tom had signed everything without argument. You know what the strangest part is? I said, closing the email. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just free. A child's laughter carried across the park, pure and unburdened. I thought about the wedding album sitting in that box, about the young woman who'd smiled so hopefully at the camera, believing in forever. What will you do now? David asked. Live, I said simply. On my own terms. We walked back to my apartment in comfortable silence. The box still sat by the door, Tom's crumpled letter beside it. Want help getting rid of that? David gestured at the box. No. I picked up the letter, smoothing it out. One line caught my eye. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to be the man you deserved. At least he'd finally told the truth about something. I struck a match, watching the flame dance. The letter caught quickly, curling into ash in my kitchen sink. The wedding album would go to Goodwill, let someone else's memories live in those pages. Emily? David hesitated at the door. There's an art exhibition next weekend. Nothing fancy, just local artists. If you'd like to. Not yet, I said gently. But ask me again sometime. After he left, I stood at my window, watching the city lights blink on one by one. Somewhere out there, the Thompsons were facing their own darkness, their carefully constructed world falling apart. But that wasn't my story anymore. I opened my laptop, pulling up the novel I'd started writing, not about revenge or betrayal, but about redemption. About a woman who learned that sometimes the greatest victory isn't in destroying your enemies, but in refusing to let them destroy you. The cursor blinked, waiting. Outside, a siren wailed, then faded. The city moved on, indifferent to personal dramas and private wars. I began to type.
Money has a way of revealing the monsters hiding in plain sight. I learned this truth on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon while debugging code at my desk, when an email from an unknown sender landed in my inbox. The subject line read, "Your husband's secret account, proof attached. Another tale awaits. But first, I'd love to know your location. Drop it in the comments, and if you're enjoying these stories, hit that subscribe button to stay connected." I'm Fiona, and until that moment, I thought I knew everything about my marriage to Brian. We were the perfect tech couple, two software developers building our dream life together, saving for a house, planning for kids. The kind of couple others looked at with envy. My cursor hovered over the delete button. Spam, obviously. But something made me click. Maybe it was the specificity of the subject line, or maybe some part of me already knew what I'd find. The PDF attachment showed transaction records spanning 3 years. Regular transfers from Brian's personal account to his mother Carol and sister Emily. Thousands each month, steadily draining our future away like a slow leak we'd never noticed. "Hey, Fi, want to grab lunch?" Brian's voice made me jump. He stood in my office doorway, smiling that easy smile I'd always trusted. "Actually," I said, turning my monitor slightly, "I think we need to talk about this." His face changed the moment he saw the screen. Not surprise, guilt. He knew exactly what I was looking at. "I can explain," he said, closing my office door. Mom and Emily, they're struggling. Greg still can't find work, and with Tommy's therapy. 3 years, I cut him off. You've been hiding this for 3 years. While we put off buying a house, starting a family. My voice cracked, but I forced it steady. How much total? He wouldn't meet my eyes. Around $90,000. The number hit me like a physical blow. $90,000. Our down payment. Our future. Emily posts about their vacations, I said. Your mother just bought a new car. That's what our money is funding. Their family, Brian said, as if that explained everything. What was I supposed to do? Tell me the truth? Let me have a say in our financial decisions? I pulled up another transaction. $2,000 last week. What was that for? Tommy's birthday party. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. $2,000 for a 5-year-old's birthday party. While we live in a 1-bedroom apartment because we're saving responsibly. Fi, please try to understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. I closed the email, my hands steady despite the rage building inside me. Your mother and sister have been manipulating you for years, and you've been letting them. That's not fair. They need help. They need consequences, I snapped. And so do you. Brian reached for my hand, but I pulled away. We can work this out, he said. I'll tell them we need to cut back. We'll make a plan. No, I said, standing up. You've been making plans behind my back long enough. Now it's my turn. What does that mean? I grabbed my bag, needing to get out of there before I said something I couldn't take back. It means I'm going home early. Don't follow me. I need time to think. Fiona, please. And Brian? I paused at the door. Call your mother. Tell her the gravy train is about to derail. Walking to my car, I felt something shift inside me. The hurt was still there, but something else was rising to take its place. Something colder, more calculated. If Carol and Emily wanted to play games with my marriage, they were about to learn they'd picked the wrong opponent. I had 90,000 reasons to make them regret it. 3 days after discovering Brian's betrayal, I sat at his mother's dining table, watching her serve lasagna with the precision of a surgeon. Carol Thompson's dinner parties were always an exercise in careful manipulation, but tonight I saw the machinery behind her motherly smile. Emily tells me you're still renting that tiny apartment, Carol said, sliding a generous portion onto my plate. Aren't you two ready for something more permanent? I felt Brian tense beside me. We're working on it, Mom. Working on it? Emily chimed in from across the table, bouncing Tommy on her knee. But you make so much money. Both of you do. I took a slow sip of wine, noting how Greg barely looked up from his phone. The new gaming console on their entertainment center caught my eye, another gift from Brian, no doubt. Actually, I said, keeping my voice light, we've been discussing our financial goals lately. Haven't we, Brian? He coughed, nearly choking on his water. Fiona. Oh. Carol's smile tightened. What kind of goals? Starting a family, I said. Saving for a house. The usual dreams. I turned to Emily. Speaking of houses, I saw your Instagram post about wanting to upgrade. How much are you thinking of spending? Emily's face flushed. Well, with Tommy's needs. What needs? I asked innocently. I thought his therapy was covered by insurance. It's complicated, Carol cut in smoothly. Brian understands how important family support is, don't you, sweetheart? I watched my husband shrink under his mother's gaze, and something snapped inside me. Support is wonderful, I said. But there's a difference between support and exploitation. The room went silent. Even Greg looked up from his phone. I don't like what you're implying, Carol said, her voice dangerously soft. Mom, Brian started, but I placed my hand on his arm. I'm not implying anything, I said. I'm stating facts. Like the fact that Tommy's birthday party cost more than our monthly rent. Or that Emily's struggling family somehow affords weekly spa days while we put our lives on hold. How dare you? Emily's voice cracked. We're barely getting by. Greg's still looking for work. Really? I pulled out my phone. Because according to LinkedIn, he's turned down 3 job offers this year. Isn't that right, Greg? Greg's face went pale. Emily turned to him, genuine shock in her expression. Is that true? They weren't the right fit, he mumbled. Nothing ever is, I said, standing up. Thank you for dinner, Carol. But I think it's time Brian and I had an honest conversation about family. Real family. Sit down, Carol commanded. We're not finished here. Actually, we are. I turned to Brian. Are you coming? The moment stretched like glass about to shatter. Brian looked between his mother and me, years of conditioning warring with the truth he could no longer ignore. Brian, Carol's voice dripped with warning. Think carefully about what you're doing. He stood up slowly. I'm going home with my wife. The drive home was silent until we pulled into our parking spot. They'll never forgive me for this, Brian whispered. Good, I said. Maybe it's time they learned actions have consequences. What are you planning, Fi? I thought about the evidence I'd been gathering, the paper trail of manipulation and lies. Justice, I said simply. Unless you're planning to stop me? He was quiet for a long moment. No, he finally said. But be careful. You don't know what they're capable of. I smiled, thinking of the email I'd received that morning from Greg's last potential employer. Neither do they, Brian. Neither do they. As we walked to our apartment, my phone buzzed with a text from Emily. You'll regret this. Family is forever. I screenshot the message, adding it to my growing collection. They thought they were playing chess, but this was about to become a completely different game. And I was done playing by their rules. The coffee shop across from Emily's yoga studio provided the perfect vantage point. I watched her emerge in designer workout gear, Tommy trailing behind her like a forgotten afterthought. No signs of the struggling single mom she portrayed in her tearful phone calls to Brian. Look who it is, a voice said. I turned to find Greg sliding into the seat across from me, unshaven and reeking of stale beer at 11 in the morning. Stalking your own wife? I asked. He laughed, hollow and tired. Following yours, more like. Emily's been watching your moves since the dinner. Says you're trying to destroy our family. Interesting choice of words, considering what your family's doing to mine. Greg's eyes drifted to Emily and Tommy getting into their new SUV. You think I don't know what they are? Carol and Emily, they're like poison. Sweet poison. That's surprisingly self-aware for someone who's been living off my husband's salary. You found those job offers, he said. Not a question. Did you also find the ones Carol sabotaged? That made me pause. What? 3 perfect positions. Carol called each company, posed as a reference. Said I had gambling problems, drug issues. He smiled bitterly. Can't prove it, of course. But the timing was perfect, right when Emily was pregnant with Tommy. My phone buzzed, a text from Brian. Emily just called. Says Tommy's therapy got cancelled. Needs emergency money. I showed Greg the message. Therapy, huh? Tommy's never been in therapy, Greg said quietly. That's just their code for Emily's shopping sprees. The pieces clicked together. How long have they been running this scam? Since before Tommy was born. Carol orchestrates, Emily executes. They've got it down to a science. And you just let it happen? His face darkened. You think I had a choice? Try going against Carol Thompson. See how fast your life falls apart. I pulled out my laptop, opened a folder labeled Evidence. Maybe we can help each other, Greg. I've been gathering proof, bank statements, social media posts, timestamps. But I need more. They'll destroy you, he warned. Like they destroyed me. No, I said, turning the screen to show him. They'll try. But unlike you, I'm fighting back. Greg stared at the documentation I'd collected. There's something else you should see. He pulled out his phone, showed me a video of Emily and Carol in what looked like a heated argument. Turn up the volume, I said. Can't keep bleeding him dry, Emily was saying. Fiona's onto us. That little programmer thinks she can outmaneuver me? Carol's laugh was chilling. I raised Brian. I own him. And soon, we'll own that house they're saving for. Jesus, I whispered. There's more, Greg said. They're planning something big. Using Tommy as bait. My phone buzzed again, another text from Brian. Emily says Tommy's asking for us. Wants to know if we can take him for the weekend. There it is, Greg said. Phase 1. I felt cold anger settling in my chest. What's their play? They'll claim you hurt him. Or neglected him. Something just bad enough to force Brian to choose, his nephew's safety or his marriage. They'd use their own child like that? Greg's laugh was bitter. They'd use anyone. Tommy's just another pawn. I started packing up my laptop. Not anymore. I'm ending this. How? I showed him the email I'd drafted to Brian's entire family, CC'd to their employers, friends, and Tommy's school. Attached were videos, bank statements, text messages, a complete record of their manipulation. That'll destroy everything, Greg said. Including you and Brian. Sometimes you have to burn it all down to build something new. I stood up. Are you with me? He looked at Emily's car, now disappearing around the corner. What do you need? Everything you have. Every lie, every scheme, every manipulation. It's time for the truth. Greg nodded slowly. Tomorrow. I'll bring it all. As I walked to my car, another text came through, from Carol this time, family dinner Sunday. Non-negotiable. Time to discuss Tommy's future. I smiled. Perfect timing. They thought they were setting a trap, but they were walking right into mine. Sunday dinner would be memorable indeed. Let the games begin. The manila envelope sat between Brian and me on our kitchen table like a loaded gun. Greg had delivered as promised, every receipt, every manipulative text. Every calculated move his wife and mother-in-law had orchestrated over the years. They used Tommy's college fund, Brian said, his voice hollow as he read through the documents. The money I sent them every month for his future. Emily spent it on designer bags and spa treatments. I watched his hands shake as he turned another page. There's more. The therapy sessions that never happened, he continued. The medical bills they claimed weren't covered by insurance. All lies. He looked up at me, something broken in his eyes. How did I not see it? Because they didn't want you to. I pulled out my phone, showed him the video Greg had captured. Listen. Carol's voice filled our kitchen. Brian's always been soft. Malleable. Just like his father was before. Before what? Brian's voice was sharp. I hesitated. Greg sent more footage. About your father. The color drained from his face. Play it. Carol's voice again. Richard thought he could leave me. Take my son away. But I showed him what happens when you cross me. Brian never knew about the affairs I invented, the colleagues I turned against him. By the time I was done, he couldn't even get a job in another state. Brian stood up so quickly his chair crashed to the floor. She destroyed him. All those years. He didn't abandon us. She drove him away. Brian. And now they're planning to use Tommy the same way. Their own grandson. He pressed his palms against the counter, knuckles white. We have to stop them. We will. I moved beside him, careful not to touch. But you need to be sure. Once we do this, there's no going back. His phone buzzed, Emily's name flashing on the screen. He answered on speaker. Brian? Emily's voice trembled. Tommy's asking for you. He's so upset. He says he doesn't feel safe here anymore. I watched Brian's jaw clench. The old manipulation, but now we could see the strings. What happened, Emily? It's Greg. He's been drinking again, getting angry. I need you to take Tommy for a while. Maybe permanently? Brian's eyes met mine. We both knew what this was, the trap Greg had warned us about. Of course, Brian said smoothly. Bring him over tomorrow. We'll take good care of him. After he hung up, I raised an eyebrow. You're playing their game? No, he said, a cold determination in his voice I'd never heard before. I'm ending it. Tommy deserves better than to be their weapon. They'll try to destroy us. Let them try. He picked up his phone again, dialed a number. Hello, Child Protective Services. I need to report suspected child exploitation and emotional abuse. I felt a chill. This wasn't part of my plan, it was better. What are you doing? What I should have done years ago. Protecting my nephew. He looked at the scattered evidence on our table. We have proof they're using him for financial manipulation. Neglecting his actual needs. And now they're trying to use him to blackmail us. Carol will retaliate. Good. Brian's smile was sharp. Because I just filed for a restraining order against her. The evidence you gathered, plus Greg's testimony. It's enough. More than enough. My phone chimed, a message from Greg, Emily's planning something big. Be careful. They're moving faster than we thought, I said. Brian gathered the documents, his movements precise and controlled. So will we. I'm done letting them hurt the people I love. He paused, looking at me. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. Better late than never, I said, but my mind was already racing ahead. Carol and Emily's desperation made them dangerous. They'd try something drastic now that their usual tactics had failed. As if reading my thoughts, Brian said, whatever they're planning, we'll face it together. I nodded, but couldn't shake the feeling that tomorrow would bring something none of us were prepared for. The game had changed, it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about survival. Emily's latest Instagram post appeared on my screen, a tearful selfie with Tommy sleeping in the background. The caption read, "Sometimes the hardest battles are fought behind closed doors. Praying for strength as my sweet boy faces another challenge. #SingleMomStruggle #pray for us." The timestamp showed 3:47 a.m. Right after our Child Protective Services report went through. My phone buzzed, Greg's number. She's gone, he said without preamble. Took Tommy and disappeared. Left a note saying she's protecting him from all of us. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. When? An hour ago. Carol picked them up. I was already moving, shaking Brian awake. He sat up instantly at my expression. They're running, I said. His face hardened as he checked his phone. 6 missed calls from Mom. Voice message. He put it on speaker, "You ungrateful children. Did you really think you could threaten us with CPS? Emily's right, you're both unstable. Don't worry about Tommy. We'll make sure he's safe from your toxic influence." Another Instagram notification popped up, Emily going live. I clicked it, my stomach churning. I never wanted to do this publicly, Emily's voice trembled perfectly. But after what happened? My own brother and his wife. The threats. I have to protect my son. Comments flooded in, "Stay strong. Praying for you." What happened? Brian's hands clenched into fists as Emily spun her tale. Our harassment, our attempts to steal Tommy, our mental instability. Each lie more calculated than the last. "They're setting us up," I said. "Making us look like the villains before CPS can investigate." "Location services," Brian suddenly said, grabbing his laptop. "Emily's phone, I'm still her emergency contact. I can track it." While he worked, I scrolled through Emily's social media history with new eyes. Every post, every sympathy-grabbing story had been building to this moment. Creating a public record of our instability, while painting herself as the victim. "Got them," Brian said. "They're heading north on the interstate. To the lake house," I realized. Carol's secret property. The one she bought with our money. Brian's voice was ice. "Perfect place to hide until CPS closes the case." My phone lit up with a text from Carol, "Last chance. Drop the CPS report, or Emily goes public with evidence of your abuse. Your choice." I showed Brian. "What evidence?" "Doesn't matter," he said. "They'll manufacture something. They always do." I opened my laptop, pulled up the folder of evidence I'd been gathering. "Then maybe it's time we go public first." Fiona. Look at the comments on Emily's live stream. Hundreds of people already think we're monsters. If we wait, their narrative wins. But exposing everything. It could hurt Tommy. The truth of that hit me hard. In my quest for revenge, had I become just like them, willing to use a child as collateral damage? My phone buzzed again. "Greg. Emily just posted your address in a private mothers group, claiming you're dangerous. People are sharing it. You need to be careful." Brian's expression changed. "That's it. That's their play. Force us to react, make us look unstable. So we don't react," I said slowly. "We let them think they've won." "What do you mean?" I started typing, my fingers flying over the keyboard. Emily's not the only one who can use social media. But instead of fighting back, we show concern. Post about how worried we are that she's disappeared with Tommy. Share resources about family trauma and manipulation. Let the truth speak for itself. Brian watched as I worked, understanding dawning. They're expecting a fight. Exactly. So we give them the opposite. While they're waiting for us to explode. We're actually following their trail to the lake house, he finished. With CPS and the police. I hit post on my first carefully worded message of concern for Emily and Tommy. Within minutes, the tone of comments began to shift. "Ready?" I asked Brian. He nodded, already grabbing his keys. "They taught me everything I know about manipulation. Time to show them how well I learned." As we headed for the car, another notification popped up, Emily going live again. But this time, we weren't watching. We were moving. The game was changing, and they didn't even know it yet. The lake house loomed before us in the pre-dawn darkness, its windows glowing like warning signals. Brian killed the engine a quarter-mile away, and we crept closer through the woods. My phone vibrated, another message from Greg, "CPS is 30 minutes out. Emily still live streaming, claiming you're stalking them." A child's cry pierced the night. "Tommy. He sounds scared," Brian whispered. Through the kitchen window, we could see Carol pacing, phone pressed to her ear. Emily sat at the table, still performing for her phone camera, tears streaming perfectly down her cheeks. "And now they're threatening to take Tommy away," Emily's voice carried through the partially open window. "My own brother, corrupted by that woman." "Quiet," Brian hissed, pulling me deeper into the shadows as Carol stepped onto the back deck. "The papers are ready," Carol spoke into her phone. "Once Emily signs, the house transfer will be complete. They'll have no choice but to back off once we own their property." My blood ran cold. I pulled out my phone, checked our joint account. The down payment we'd saved, gone. Transferred to Carol's account 10 minutes ago. Brian, I showed him the screen. How did they? My passwords, he said, face ashen. Mom always knew them. I never changed. A new voice cut through the night, Greg's. He strode up the front path, Tommy's favorite stuffed dinosaur in his hand. Emily, he called out. Let me see my son. Emily appeared at the door, phone still recording. Stay back. I have a restraining order. No, you don't, Greg's voice was steady. Just like Tommy's not in therapy, and you're not a single mother. Stop lying, Emily. He's drunk, Carol announced loudly for Emily's stream. Everyone witnessed this. I'm sober, Greg said. First time in years. Clear enough to testify about everything, the fake medical bills, the manipulation, all of it. Carol's smile turned predatory. Testify? With your history of alcoholism and domestic violence? My heart sank. Of course they had documentation, probably manufactured years ago for exactly this moment. Now, Carol continued, unless you want those police reports to resurface, take your dramatic performance elsewhere. We're busy saving Tommy from actual abusers. Greg's shoulders slumped. He dropped the dinosaur and walked away, defeated. Time to end this, I whispered to Brian, stepping forward. Wait, he grabbed my arm. Too late. The motion sensor lights flooded the yard, exposing us. There. Emily shrieked, camera whirling to catch us. They found us. They're trying to break in. Carol's smile was triumphant. Right on cue. Emily, call the police. Brian, I expected better from you. Breaking and entering? Stalking? What will your employer think? You stole our house, I said, my voice shaking. No, dear. You transferred the down payment willingly, the paperwork shows that clearly. Just like the paperwork shows your history of unstable behavior and threats against Emily. Sirens wailed in the distance, but not CPS. Police. One last chance, Carol said. Drop everything, the CPS report, the accusations, all of it. We'll let you keep your jobs, your reputations. Otherwise. She held up a thick folder. These documents tell quite a story about workplace harassment, mental instability, and attempted kidnapping. Brian's hand found mine. You can't. I can do anything, Carol cut him off. I always have. The question is, how much are you willing to lose? The sirens grew closer. Through the window, I could see Tommy watching us, clutching his blanket. Emily's phone kept streaming, recording every moment of our apparent crime. Time's up, Carol said. Choose. I looked at Brian, saw the defeat in his eyes. Everything we'd built, everything we'd planned, gone. They'd beaten us at our own game, turned our evidence gathering against us. One wrong move now would cost us everything. The police cars appeared at the end of the drive, lights flashing. Well? Carol's voice dripped with victory. I opened my mouth to surrender, and my phone buzzed. A message from Greg, check your email. Now. Carol's smile faltered as she saw my expression change. Sometimes the best revenge isn't winning the game, but changing the rules entirely. I opened the email, and hope flickered back to life. Greg's email contained a single video file. I pressed play just as the police officers approached, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. Everything's on record, Carol announced triumphantly. They broke onto private property. Actually, I interrupted, turning up my phone's volume, you should watch this first. The video showed Carol in her kitchen 3 years ago, coaching Emily. Just tell Brian you need the money for Tommy's therapy. He'll never check, he trusts you. And if Fiona ever catches on, we'll say you're being abused. No one questions a victim. Emily's voice, clear as crystal, but what if Greg talks? Please, Carol scoffed. We've got enough dirt on him to keep him quiet forever. Now, about that house they're saving for. I watched the color drain from Carol's face as her own voice continued detailing every manipulation, every planned accusation, every calculated move. Emily's phone clattered to the deck, live stream forgotten. Where did you? Greg's been recording everything, I said. For years. Insurance, he called it. Smart man. The police officers stopped, listening to the video's damning evidence. That's doctored, Carol snapped, but her voice trembled. Officer, they're harassing us. The metadata's intact, I cut in. Time stamps, location data, everything. And there's more. Every conversation about fake therapy sessions, every plan to exploit Brian's guilt, every dollar stolen from Tommy's future, all documented. Mom? Brian's voice cracked. Is this true? Even Dad? I protected you, Carol hissed. Everything I did was to keep this family together. By destroying it? Brian stepped forward. By using my nephew as a weapon? By driving away everyone who threatened your control? Emily burst into tears, real ones this time. You said we were helping Tommy. You said Brian owed us. Shut up, Carol snarled, but Emily was unraveling. The therapy money, Tommy's college fund, that was your idea. You said. I said shut up. The back door opened. Tommy stood there in his pajamas, clutching his blanket. Mommy? Why is everyone yelling? The silence that followed was deafening. Sir, one officer addressed Brian, we received reports of stalking and harassment. Play the rest of the video, I said quietly. Everything's there. Including the financial fraud and conspiracy to commit theft through coercion. Carol lunged for my phone, but Brian caught her arm. It's over, Mom. No more manipulation. No more lies. You ungrateful, she swung at him, but the officers moved quickly, restraining her. Carol Thompson, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud. Emily collapsed onto the deck, sobbing. Tommy, baby, go inside. He's coming with me, Greg's voice came from behind us. He stood with two CPS workers, their expressions grim as they reviewed documentation on a tablet. You can't, Emily started. Until this is sorted out, one worker said, Tommy needs a stable environment. Mr. Sanders has provided evidence of ongoing emotional abuse and exploitation of a minor. I watched Tommy run to Greg, saw the way he clung to his father. All the schemes, all the manipulation, and in the end, they'd forgotten the one person who mattered most. Brian, Carol called out as the officers led her away. You can't let them do this. I'm your mother. Brian didn't look at her. Instead, he turned to me. I'm sorry, he whispered. For everything. For not seeing it sooner. Fiona, Greg called out, Tommy in his arms. Thank you. For showing me there was another way. I nodded, watching Emily being questioned by police, Carol being placed in a patrol car. The careful documentation of years of manipulation coming to light. What now? Brian asked. I took his hand, thinking of the nursery we'd planned, the future we'd fought to protect. Now we build something new. Something honest. Behind us, the lake house stood silent, its windows dark, no longer a fortress of lies, but a monument to truth's inevitable victory. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies, but about refusing to let them destroy what matters most. Dawn was breaking over the water, and with it, the promise of a different kind of family. The nursery walls were half-painted when Greg's text arrived, Emily's asking to see Tommy. Says she's been getting help. I watched Brian's brush strokes falter, yellow paint dripping onto the drop cloth. We'd chosen yellow because it felt like hope, warm, uncertain, but persistent. What do you think? He asked, not turning around. Through the window, autumn leaves scattered across our new backyard, smaller than the one we'd originally planned, but ours free and clear. No manipulation, no hidden costs. I think, I said carefully, that's Tommy's father's decision to make. My phone buzzed again. A photo from Greg, his new office, his name on the door. Below it, first day as junior developer. Thanks for the recommendation. Brian set down his brush. Mom's sentencing is tomorrow. I know. The weight of that knowledge hung between us like smoke. Carol had pleaded guilty to reduced charges. But the evidence trail had led to other victims, other families she'd manipulated and destroyed over the years. The doorbell rang. Greg stood on our porch, Tommy clutching his hand. The boy wore a coding camp t-shirt, a gift from his father's new workplace. Uncle Brian. Tommy rushed forward for a hug. Dad's teaching me Python. Already? Brian laughed, genuine joy breaking through the day's tension. Watch out, or he'll be competing for your job soon. Actually, Greg cleared his throat, we wanted to show you something, Fiona. He handed me his phone, open to Emily's private Instagram. No more victim posts or carefully staged suffering. Instead, a simple photo of her therapy group, caption reading, learning to break generational patterns. Day 47. She's doing the work, Greg said quietly. Real work, not just performance. Brian touched the yellow wall, paint still wet. And Carol? Hasn't tried to contact either of us, Greg replied. The counselor says that's probably best, for now. Tommy tugged at my sleeve. Is the baby's room yellow like a duck? Like sunshine, I corrected, then caught myself. That's what Carol used to say, everything wrapped in pretty metaphors to hide harder truths. Like yellow, I amended. Just yellow. Greg nodded, understanding in his eyes. We should go. Tommy's got coding class. Wait, Brian said. The birthday party next week. If you both wanted to come. The invitation hung there, fragile as a soap bubble. Not forgiveness, exactly. Something newer, more cautious. We'll think about it, Greg said. Right, buddy? Tommy was already running back to the car, excited about his next lesson. Learning to build something, not break it. After they left, Brian resumed painting, his strokes more confident now. You know what I realized? We spent so much time trying to get revenge, we almost missed the real victory. Which was? Building this. Something true. He gestured around the nursery. Mom always said family was about loyalty at any cost. But it's really about growth, isn't it? Even when it hurts. I touched my stomach, not yet showing but full of promise. Speaking of growth. His brush clattered to the floor. Are you? Found out this morning. Wanted to wait until after tomorrow's sentencing to tell you. He pulled me close, paint-stained hands and all. Through the window, I could see Tommy waving from Greg's car as they drove away. In my pocket, Emily's latest message waited for a response. And somewhere across town, Carol prepared to face the consequences of her choices. Revenge had been my first instinct, but healing proved to be the better path. Not perfect healing, some scars would always remain. But real healing, built on truth and boundaries and the courage to start again. Yellow really was the right choice, Brian murmured against my hair. I smiled, thinking of patterns broken and new ones forming. It's just a color. No, he said. It's a beginning. Outside, autumn winds scattered more leaves across our yard. Tomorrow would bring Carol's sentencing, Emily's tentative steps toward change, Greg's new path. But today, in this room that smelled of fresh paint and possibility, we had already won something better than revenge. We had won our future.
You spent our savings on what? I gasped, feeling the room spin around me. Gareth, how could you? My husband's face paled as he glanced nervously between me and his parents. The dining room suddenly felt suffocating, the fancy china and crystal glasses mocking me with their extravagance. Now, Stacy, Eula, my mother-in-law, interjected with a saccharine smile. I'm sure Gareth was just thinking of family. Isn't that right, dear? I gripped the edge of the table, my knuckles turning white. My name is Stacy, and I just discovered my husband betrayed me in the worst way possible. It's an investment, Gareth mumbled, avoiding my gaze. Mom and Dad needed a place closer to us, and this condo was perfect. I thought you'd understand. Understand? I hissed, struggling to keep my voice low. You used our entire savings without even talking to me. How is that an investment? Henry, my father-in-law, cleared his throat. Now, let's not make a scene. We're all family here. I laughed bitterly. Family? Is that what you call this? Eula's eyes narrowed. I don't appreciate your tone, young lady. After all we've done for you. Done for me. I cut her off, my voice rising. You've done nothing but undermine me since the day I married your son. Gareth reached for my hand, but I jerked away. Honey, please. Can we discuss this later? No, we can't, I snapped. I want to know exactly how much of our money you spent on this condo. The silence that followed was deafening. Gareth squirmed in his seat, while Eula's smug expression spoke volumes. All of it, Gareth finally whispered. The down payment, it took all of our savings. The room tilted dangerously. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I need some air. As I stormed out onto the balcony, I heard Eula's voice drift after me. Really, Gareth? I don't know why you put up with such dramatics. I gripped the railing, gulping in the cool night air. How had it come to this? When had I become such a stranger in my own marriage? The sliding door opened behind me, and Gareth's hesitant footsteps approached. Stacy, I'm sorry. I should have told you. I whirled around, fury blazing in my chest. Told me? You should have discussed it with me. We're supposed to be partners, Gareth. How could you make such a huge decision without me? He ran a hand through his hair, looking lost. They're my parents, Stacy. They needed help. And what about us? I demanded. What about our future? Our son's future? Gareth's eyes widened. Caleb? He's fine. This doesn't affect him. I laughed incredulously. Doesn't affect him? That money was for his college fund, Gareth. For our retirement. For emergencies. We can save again, he said weakly. It's not like we're poor. That's not the point. I exploded. You betrayed my trust. You put your parents before your own family. The sliding door opened again, and Eula's perfectly coiffed head poked out. Everything all right out here? Dessert's getting cold. I bit back a scathing retort, forcing a smile. We'll be right in, Eula. As soon as she disappeared, I turned back to Gareth. This isn't over. We need to have a serious talk about our future. He nodded, relief washing over his face. Of course. We'll figure it out, I promise. But as we rejoined his parents at the table, the sickening realization hit me. This wasn't just about money. It was about loyalty, respect, and the very foundation of our marriage. Eula beamed as she served us each a slice of her famous apple pie. Now, isn't this lovely? All of us together like one big, happy family. I stabbed my fork into the pie, imagining it was something else entirely. Just wonderful, I muttered. As the conversation drifted to inane topics, I found myself withdrawing, observing the dynamics around me with new eyes. Gareth, eager to please his parents. Eula, subtly controlling every aspect of the evening. Henry, passively going along with whatever his wife decreed. And me? I was the outsider, the interloper in this tightly knit family unit. But as I watched Eula manipulate the conversation, steering it towards her latest social triumph, a spark of defiance ignited within me. I wouldn't be pushed aside so easily. I wouldn't let them steamroll over my life, my marriage, my future. So, Stacy, Eula's voice cut through my thoughts. How is little Caleb doing in school? Still struggling with reading, is he? I gritted my teeth, recognizing the subtle jab. Actually, he's made great progress. His teacher says he's one of the top readers in his class now. Eula's smile tightened. Oh, well, I'm sure Gareth's genes are finally kicking in. The Whitmans have always been exceptionally bright. I felt my blood begin to boil, but before I could retort, Gareth jumped in. Mom, did I tell you about the new project I'm working on at the firm? As Eula's attention shifted, lavishing praise on her darling boy, I sat back and observed. The pieces were falling into place, revealing a pattern I'd been blind to for far too long. This wasn't just about money or a condo. It was about control, about keeping Gareth firmly under their influence, even at the expense of his own family. Well, I thought, taking a sip of wine to hide my growing resolve. Two can play at that game. As the evening wore on, I smiled and nodded in all the right places. But inside, my mind was racing, formulating a plan. I wouldn't let them win. I wouldn't let them destroy everything I'd worked so hard to build. This betrayal was just the beginning, but I would make damn sure it was also the end. The moving truck rumbled away, leaving me standing in the shadow of the luxury condo that had swallowed our savings. Caleb tugged at my hand, his eyes wide with excitement. Mommy, look at the big fountain, he exclaimed, pointing to the ornate water feature in the courtyard. I forced a smile. It's nice, sweetie. Let's go see our new home. As we entered the lobby, Eula's shrill voice echoed off the marble floors. There you are. We were beginning to think you'd gotten lost. She swept forward, enveloping Caleb in a suffocating hug. Come to Grandma, my precious boy. I've got your room all set up. It's fit for a little prince. I bristled at her words. We'd agreed Caleb would share a room with us, at least initially. But before I could object, Gareth appeared, laden with boxes. Mom, maybe we should let Stacy and Caleb settle in first, he suggested weakly. Eula waved him off. Nonsense. Family helps family. Now, Stacy dear, I've taken the liberty of unpacking some of your things. I hope you don't mind, but that horrid floral vase simply wouldn't do in the living room. My jaw clenched. That vase was a wedding gift from my late grandmother. Actually, Eula, I'd prefer to unpack my own belongings. Her eyes narrowed for a split second before her saccharine smile returned. Of course, dear. I was only trying to help. You must be exhausted after all that packing. The way she said it made it sound like I'd been digging ditches instead of organizing our life into boxes. I bit back a retort, reminding myself that this was temporary. We just needed to save enough to move out. As the days passed, that goal seemed increasingly distant. Eula's presence was suffocating, her subtle digs constant. She rearranged the kitchen without asking, skiing at my chaotic organization. She scheduled playdates for Caleb without consulting me, always with the children of her country club friends. Caleb needs to socialize with the right sort, she'd say, her tone implying I was somehow deficient in providing that. Even bath time wasn't sacred. One evening, as I was running Caleb's bath, Eula barged in. Oh, good. You're giving him a bath, she said, as if surprised I knew how to care for my own child. I'll take over from here. You look tired, dear. Why don't you go relax? I gripped the edge of the tub. I've got this, Eula. Caleb and I have our own bath time routine. She laughed, a tinkling sound that set my teeth on edge. Don't be silly. I raised Gareth, you know. I think I can handle bathing my grandson. Mom. Gareth's voice came from the hallway. Let Stacy handle it. Come help me with dinner. Eula's lips thinned, but she retreated. As she left, I caught her muttering, I don't know why he puts up with such stubbornness. That night, after Caleb was asleep, I confronted Gareth. This isn't working, I hissed. Your mother is constantly undermining me. Gareth sighed, running a hand through his hair. She's just trying to help Stacy. Can't you try to get along? Get along. I struggled to keep my voice down. She criticizes everything I do. She's taking over Caleb's life. And you just stand by and let it happen. What do you want me to do? He snapped. They're my parents. We're living in their home. A home bought with our money. I reminded him bitterly. The argument ended as it always did, with Gareth retreating to his study and me lying awake, seething. The final straw came a week later. I returned from grocery shopping to find Eula in the kitchen, a smug smile on her face. Oh, good, you're back, she said. I was just telling Caleb about our summer plans. I froze. What summer plans? Why, our annual family vacation to Martha's Vineyard, of course, she replied, as if it were obvious. I've already booked the tickets. Gareth agreed it would be wonderful for Caleb to experience it. The room spun. Our family vacation, the one we'd been planning for months, the one I'd been promising Caleb, was to the Grand Canyon. It was supposed to be just the three of us. We can't afford a trip to Martha's Vineyard, I said through gritted teeth. Eula waved her hand dismissively. Don't worry about that, dear. We'll cover it. After all, what's family for? In that moment, something inside me snapped. I saw with crystal clarity the web Eula had woven, trapping us in a life dictated by her whims. No, I said, my voice steady. We won't be going to Martha's Vineyard. Caleb, Gareth, and I will be sticking to our original plans. Eula's eyes flashed. Now see here, young lady. No, you see here. I cut her off. This ends now. I am Caleb's mother. Gareth is my husband. We are a family, and we will make our own decisions. As Eula sputtered in indignation, I turned to leave the kitchen. At the doorway, I paused. Oh, and Eula? I'll be putting my grandmother's vase back in the living room. I think it'll look lovely there, don't you? I walked away, my heart pounding but my resolve firm. This was far from over, but for the first time since moving in, I felt a glimmer of hope. I would reclaim my family, my life, no matter what it took. The cafe bustled with a lunchtime crowd, but I barely noticed the noise. My hands trembled as I dialed Lana's number, praying she'd pick up. Stacy. Lana's voice crackled through the speaker. Is everything okay? I choked back a sob. Lana, I need help. I can't do this anymore. I'm on my way, she said without hesitation. Where are you? 20 minutes later, Lana slid into the booth across from me, her face etched with concern. I spilled everything, the condo, Eula's manipulation, Gareth's betrayal. Lana listened, her expression darkening with each revelation. Oh, Stacy, she breathed when I finished. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I shrugged helplessly. I thought I could handle it, that things would get better. Lana reached across the table, squeezing my hand. Well, that ends now. We're getting you out of there. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. But how? I don't have any money and Caleb. We'll figure it out, Lana assured me. First things first, we need to document everything. Every snide comment, every manipulation. Build a case. I nodded, determination replacing despair. I can do that. Over the next few weeks, I became a silent observer in my own home. I started a journal, meticulously recording Eula's behavior. The way she accidentally shrank my favorite sweater in the wash. How she scheduled doctor's appointments for Caleb without consulting me. The constant barrage of criticism thinly veiled as concern. Really, Stacy, she'd say, eyeing my outfit. Don't you think you should dress more appropriately for a mother? I'd smile tightly, jotting down the exchange later. Each entry fueled my resolve. Gareth remained oblivious, or perhaps willfully ignorant. When I tried to discuss Eula's behavior, he'd brush it off. You're being too sensitive, he'd say. Mom's just trying to help. I stopped trying to make him understand. Instead, I focused on Caleb, shielding him as best I could from the toxic atmosphere. One afternoon, as I was helping Caleb with his homework, Eula swooped in. Oh, let me handle this, she cooed. Caleb needs a proper education, not just coloring books. I bit back a retort, remembering Lana's advice. Document, don't engage. Later that night, I snuck into the study, using Gareth's computer to research custody laws and financial advice. As I was about to log off, a notification popped up, an email from Eula to Gareth. My finger hovered over the mouse. It was wrong to snoop, but I clicked. Darling, the email read, I'm concerned about Stacy's influence on Caleb. Perhaps we should consider more permanent arrangements for his care. After all, blood is thicker than water. My blood ran cold. They were plotting to take my son. The next day, I met Lana at our usual cafe, my nerves frayed. They want to take Caleb, I whispered, showing her the email I'd forwarded to myself. Lana's eyes widened. This is serious, Stacy. We need to act fast. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through contacts. My cousin Evan, remember him? He owns a small business. He's always looking for help. It's not much, but it could be a start. I hesitated. I don't know, Lana. I haven't worked in years. And what about Caleb? One step at a time, she said firmly. First, we get you some financial independence. Then we tackle the rest. That evening, I returned home with a plan forming. As I entered, I heard Eula's voice from the kitchen. I just don't understand why she can't be more grateful, she was saying. After all we've done for her. I paused, listening. Now, dear, Henry's placating tone replied. Stacy's trying her best. Her best. Eula scoffed. She's barely fit to raise a child. It's a good thing we're here to guide Caleb properly. My hands clenched into fists. Every instinct screamed at me to burst in, to confront them. But I held back, remembering my goal. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about securing a future for Caleb, free from their toxic influence. I retreated to my room, pulling out my journal. As I documented the overheard conversation, a sense of calm settled over me. For the first time since this nightmare began, I had a clear path forward. The next morning, I called Evan. I'd love to hear more about that job opportunity, I said, my voice steady. As I hung up, I caught sight of my reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back at me looked different, stronger, more determined. I thought of Caleb, of the life I wanted for us, of the example I wanted to set for my son. No more silent suffering. No more letting Eula dictate our lives. It was time to take control. I picked up my journal, flipping through the pages of documented abuse and manipulation. Soon, very soon, I'd have enough to make my stand. And when I did, Eula, Gareth, and anyone else who tried to come between me and my son would learn just how formidable I could be. The silent rebellion had begun, and I was ready for war. The bell above the door chimed as I stepped into Evan's small bookstore. The scent of old paper and coffee wrapping around me like a comforting blanket. Lana waved from behind the counter, her smile warm and encouraging. Stacy, you made it, she said, coming around to give me a quick hug. Evan's in the back. Let me grab him. I nodded, my stomach churning with a mixture of nervousness and hope. This meeting could be the first step towards my independence, away from Eula's suffocating control and Gareth's betrayal. Moments later, a tall man with kind eyes and an easy smile emerged from the back room. You must be Stacy, he said, extending his hand. I'm Evan. Lana's told me a lot about you. As we sat down to talk, I found myself relaxing. Evan listened intently as I explained my situation, his expression a mix of sympathy and determination. Well, he said when I finished, I could certainly use some help around here. It's not much, but it's a start. When can you begin? The relief that washed over me was almost overwhelming. Really? I can start whenever you need me. We worked out a schedule that would allow me to work while Caleb was at school, without raising suspicion from Eula or Gareth. As I left the store, clutching my new employee handbook, I felt a spark of hope ignite in my chest. That evening, as I helped Caleb with his homework, Eula swept into the room. Caleb, darling, she cooed. Why don't you let Grandma help you? I'm sure Mommy has other things to do. I gritted my teeth, ready to argue, when an idea struck me. Actually, Eula, I said sweetly, I'd love your help. I have some errands to run tomorrow morning. Would you mind watching Caleb until it's time for school? Eula's eyes narrowed suspiciously, but she couldn't very well refuse. Of course, dear. Happy to help. The next morning, I left the condo with a spring in my step, my work clothes hidden under a loose sweater. The thrill of my secret rebellion carried me through my first day at the bookstore. As the weeks passed, I found myself blossoming under Evan's patient guidance. The quiet confidence I gained at work began to seep into other areas of my life. I started challenging Eula's passive-aggressive comments, much to her barely concealed fury. One evening, as I was shelving books, Evan approached me with a concerned look. Stacy, can we talk for a moment? My heart raced as I followed him to the office. Had I done something wrong? Was he going to let me go? Evan closed the door and turned to face me. Stacy, I hope you know that you can trust me. I've noticed some things. The way you flinch when your phone rings. How you're always checking the time, worried about being late. If you're in trouble, I want to help. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Evan said gently. But I want you to know that you have options. There are resources, people who can help. You and Caleb, you deserve to be safe and happy. His words broke something open inside me. Before I knew it, I was sobbing, spilling out the whole ugly truth about my life with Gareth and Eula. Evan listened without judgment, offering quiet support. When I finished, he handed me a tissue and a business card. This is a friend of mine, he explained. She's a lawyer who specializes in family law. I think you should talk to her. I stared at the card, hope and fear warring inside me. I don't know if I can afford. Don't worry about that. Evan cut me off. She owes me a favor. Just think about it, okay? That night, as I lay in bed next to a snoring Gareth, I turned the lawyer's card over and over in my hands. The thought of leaving was terrifying, but the idea of staying, of subjecting Caleb to this toxic environment for years to come, was even worse. My resolve strengthened as I remembered Evan's words. I deserved to be safe and happy. More importantly, Caleb deserved a mother who was strong enough to protect him. The next morning, I woke early, my decision made. I dialed the number on the card with shaking fingers. Hello, I said when a woman answered. My name is Stacy Whitman. I need your help. As I hung up, I caught sight of my reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back at me looked different, stronger, more determined. For the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of real hope. Eula's voice floated up from the kitchen, sharp with displeasure. Stacy, where are you? Caleb needs his breakfast. I took a deep breath, squaring my shoulders. Let her shout. Let her scheme. I had allies now and a plan. The days of cowering in fear were over. Coming, Eula. I called back, my voice steady and clear. As I descended the stairs, I felt the weight of my secret knowledge buoying me up. Soon, very soon, I would be free. And neither Eula nor Gareth would see it coming. The tension in the condo was palpable as I walked through the door, my arms laden with groceries. Eula's shrill voice carried from the living room, where she was engaged in a heated phone conversation. I don't care what it takes, she hissed. That girl needs to be put in her place. I froze, my heart pounding. There was no doubt who that girl was. As I rounded the corner, Eula's eyes locked onto mine. Her face morphed into a saccharine smile, but the malice in her gaze was unmistakable. Oh, Stacy dear, she cooed, ending her call. Let me help you with those bags. You look so tired. I squared my shoulders, meeting her gaze. I'm fine, Eula. I can manage. Her eyes narrowed at my defiance. Well, if you insist. Though I do worry about your ability to handle everything. Caleb needs a stable environment after all. The implied threat hung in the air between us. I bit back a retort, reminding myself of the lawyer's advice. Document everything, but don't engage unnecessarily. Later that evening, as I was tucking Caleb into bed, Gareth appeared in the doorway. Can we talk? He asked, his voice low and strained. I nodded, pressing a kiss to Caleb's forehead before following Gareth to our bedroom. What's going on with you lately? He demanded as soon as the door closed. Mom says you've been acting strange, disappearing for hours. I felt a flare of anger. Oh, your mother says? And what do you think, Gareth? Have you bothered to ask me how I'm doing? He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. I'm asking now, Stacy. What's going on? For a moment, I considered telling him everything, the job at the bookstore, the meetings with the lawyer, my plans to leave. But as I looked into his eyes, I saw only confusion and irritation. No understanding, no remorse for how he'd betrayed me. Nothing's going on, I said finally. I'm just trying to be a good mother to our son. Gareth's face softened slightly. I know things have been tough with the move and all, but Mom and Dad are just trying to help. Can't you try to get along with them? I laughed bitterly. get along? Gareth, your mother is actively trying to undermine me at every turn. And you just stand by and let it happen. His expression hardened. That's not fair, Stacy. They're my parents. I can't just what? I interrupted. Stand up for your wife. Protect your son from their manipulation. Gareth's face flushed with anger. You're being ridiculous. Mom and Dad love Caleb. They want what's best for him. What's best for him? I echoed incredulously. Like when your mother tried to enroll him in that elite preschool without consulting me. Or when she tells him that mommy is confused whenever I disagree with her. Gareth's jaw clenched. You're blowing things out of proportion. Mom is just trying to give Caleb opportunities. I shook my head, a wave of sadness washing over me. This man, who I'd once loved so deeply, was now a stranger to me. You know what, Gareth? You're right. I am tired. Tired of fighting for a place in my own family. Tired of being treated like an outsider in my own home. His eyes widened, a flicker of fear crossing his face. What are you saying? I took a deep breath, steeling myself. I'm saying that something needs to change. Either you start standing up to your parents and supporting me, or I let the unfinished threat hang in the air between us. Gareth's face paled. Or what? He whispered. Before I could respond, a knock at the door interrupted us. Eula's voice floated through, sickly sweet. Is everything all right in there? I heard raised voices. Gareth shot me a pleading look before opening the door. Everything's fine, Mom. Stacy and I were just talking. Eula's eyes darted between us, her lips curved in a triumphant smile. Well, if you're sure. I was just about to make some tea. Would you like to join me, Gareth? We can discuss that business proposal your father mentioned. I watched as Gareth hesitated, torn between staying to finish our conversation and following his mother. In the end, habit won out. Sure, Mom, he said, avoiding my gaze. I'll be right down. As they left, I sank onto the bed, a mix of anger and determination coursing through me. This confrontation had made one thing crystal clear. I couldn't count on Gareth to change. If I wanted a better life for myself and Caleb, I would have to make it happen on my own. I pulled out my phone, sending a quick text to Lana. It's time. Can you help me get everything ready? Her response came almost immediately. Absolutely. We're here for you, Stacy. Whatever you need. I took a deep breath, feeling a strange sense of calm settle over me. The storm was gathering, but for the first time in years, I felt ready to face it head-on. Eula and Gareth had no idea what was coming, but they were about to learn that I was no longer the meek, compliant woman they thought they could control. The time for silent rebellion was over. Now it was time for action. The Whitman family's annual garden party was in full swing, the manicured lawn dotted with elegantly dressed guests sipping champagne. I stood at the edge of the crowd, my heart pounding as I clutched the folder containing months of meticulously gathered evidence. Eula's voice carried across the garden, her laugh tinkling like broken glass. Oh, Stacy dear, do come and join us. We were just discussing Caleb's future. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. This was it, the moment I'd been preparing for. As I approached the group, I caught sight of Gareth, his face tight with tension. He'd been on edge ever since our argument, clearly sensing the shift in our relationship but unable or unwilling to address it. What about Caleb's future? I asked, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. Eula's smile was razor-sharp. Well, we were just telling the Hendersons about that wonderful private school we're considering. The one with the accelerated program. I felt a flash of anger. We'd never discussed any private school. Oh, and when was this decision made? Henry cleared his throat uncomfortably, but Eula pressed on. Now, Stacy, don't be difficult. We're only thinking of what's best for Caleb. What's best for Caleb? I echoed, my voice rising. Like when you tried to enroll him in that elite preschool without consulting me. Or when you tell him that mommy is confused whenever I disagree with you. A hush fell over the gathering. Eula's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. I don't know what you're talking about. Gareth, control your wife. But Gareth stood frozen, his eyes darting between me and his mother. I turned to address the stunned guests. I'm sorry to disrupt your lovely party, but I can't stay silent any longer. For months, I've endured manipulation, gaslighting, and emotional abuse at the hands of my in-laws, while my husband stood by and did nothing. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Eula's face contorted with fury.
How dare you?
After everything we've done for you. Everything you've done? I laughed bitterly. You mean like using our entire savings to buy this condo without my knowledge or consent? Gasps echoed around us. I opened the folder, pulling out bank statements and emails. I have proof of every manipulation, every lie. How you've systematically tried to undermine my relationship with my son. How you've belittled and excluded me at every turn. Gareth finally found his voice. Stacy, please. This isn't the time or place. When is the time, Gareth? I demanded, rounding on him. When were you planning to stand up for me? For our family? His face crumpled. I didn't know it was this bad. I thought if we just tried harder. Tried harder? Eula screeched. We've bent over backwards to accommodate this ungrateful. That's enough, Eula. Henry's voice cut through the chaos. For the first time, I saw a flicker of shame in his eyes. We may have overstepped. Eula whirled on him. Don't you dare side with her. She's trying to turn our son against us. No, Mom, Gareth said quietly. Stacy's right. I've let this go too far. The realization that he was finally standing up to his mother should have been satisfying. But it was too little too late. I turned back to the gathered guests, many of whom looked deeply uncomfortable. I'm sorry you all had to witness this. But I couldn't let the facade continue. The Whitmans aren't the perfect family they pretend to be. They're manipulative, controlling, and willing to destroy their own son's marriage to maintain their illusion of power. Eula lunged forward, her carefully manicured nails clawing at the folder in my hands. Give me those. You have no right. I have every right, I said firmly, stepping back. These are copies anyway. The originals are safe with my lawyer. The word lawyer seemed to echo across the lawn. Eula's face drained of color as she realized the implications. One by one, guests began to make their excuses and leave. The Hendersons, Eula's closest friends, couldn't meet her eyes as they hurried past. The carefully cultivated social standing she'd prized so highly was crumbling before her eyes. As the last guests departed, leaving only our fractured family on the lawn, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. Stacy, Gareth pleaded, reaching for my hand. We can fix this. We can go to counseling, make a fresh start. I gently pulled away.
No, Gareth. It's too late for that.
I've already filed for divorce. His face crumpled. But what about Caleb? I'm fighting for full custody, I said firmly. You're welcome to visit, but I won't subject our son to this toxic environment any longer. Eula, who had been uncharacteristically silent, suddenly found her voice. You can't do this. We'll fight you every step of the way. I met her gaze steadily. Go ahead. But remember, I have evidence of every cruel word, every manipulation. Do you really want all of that aired in court? For the first time, I saw fear in Eula's eyes. The realization that her carefully constructed world was falling apart seemed to age her instantly. As I turned to leave, Gareth called out one last time. Stacy, please. I love you. I paused, looking back at the man I'd once built my life around. I loved you too, Gareth. But sometimes love isn't enough. With that, I walked away from the Whitman family, my head held high. The confrontation I dreaded for so long was over, and though the road ahead would be challenging, I felt lighter than I had in years. The storm had broken, and in its wake, I could finally see the promise of clear skies ahead. The pre-dawn light filtered through the curtains as I zipped up the last suitcase. My heart raced, a mixture of fear and exhilaration coursing through my veins.
Today was the day.
The day I'd reclaim my life and my son's future. A soft knock at the door made me jump. Stacy. Lana's whisper came through. It's time. I took a deep breath, stealing myself. Coming, I whispered back. Caleb stirred in his bed as I approached. Mommy, he mumbled, rubbing his eyes. Hey, sweetie, I said softly, kneeling beside him. Remember our special adventure I told you about? It's time to go. His eyes widened with excitement, thankfully still too young to fully grasp the gravity of the situation. As I helped him dress, I sent up a silent prayer of thanks for his resilience. Lana and Evan were waiting in the hallway, their faces a mix of determination and concern. Everything's ready, Evan whispered, taking one of the suitcases. The car's out back. We moved silently through the condo, each creak of the floorboards sending a jolt of panic through me. As we passed Gareth and Eula's rooms, I held my breath, half expecting Eula to burst out and catch us. But the doors remained closed, and soon we were stepping out into the cool morning air. Freedom was so close I could taste it. As Evan loaded the car, a voice behind us made my blood run cold. Going somewhere? I whirled around to find Gareth standing in the doorway, his face a mask of hurt and confusion. Daddy, Caleb exclaimed, oblivious to the tension. Gareth's eyes darted between us and the packed car. Stacy, what's going on? Where are you taking our son? I stepped forward, placing myself between Gareth and Caleb. We're leaving, Gareth. I told you at the party. I can't do this anymore. His face crumpled. But I thought we could work it out. I've been trying, Stacy. I told Mom to back off. It's too late. I cut him off, my voice firm despite the tremor in my hands. You had years to stand up to your parents, to be a partner to me. I can't wait any longer. You can't just take my son. Gareth's voice rose, panic edging into his tone. Mommy, Caleb's small voice came from behind me, tinged with fear. I turned, kneeling to meet his eyes. It's okay, sweetie. Daddy and I are just talking. Why don't you go with Aunt Lana to the car? Lana stepped forward, gently guiding Caleb away. As they walked to the car, I faced Gareth again. I'm not taking him away from you, Gareth.
You can still be a part of his life.
But I won't subject him to your mother's manipulation anymore. Gareth's eyes filled with tears. Please, Stacy. We can fix this. I'll do whatever it takes. For a moment, I felt my resolve waver. This man, for all his faults, was still the father of my child, the man I'd once loved enough to marry. But then I remembered all the nights I'd cried myself to sleep, all the times I'd felt small and insignificant in my own home. I'm sorry, Gareth, I said softly. But sometimes, sorry isn't enough. A commotion from inside the house caught our attention. Eula's shrill voice carried through the open door. Gareth? What's going on out there? Panic flared in my chest. If Eula got involved, things could quickly spiral out of control. Go, Gareth said suddenly, his voice barely above a whisper. Before she comes out. I stared at him, shocked. What? His eyes met mine, filled with a mixture of resignation and regret. You're right. I should have stood up to them years ago. I don't want Caleb growing up like I did. Tears pricked at my eyes. Thank you, I breathed. Gareth. Eula's voice was closer now. Go, he repeated more urgently. I'll handle Mom. I nodded, turning to run to the car. As I slid into the back seat next to Caleb, I saw Gareth step back into the house, closing the door behind him. Drive, I told Evan, my voice shaky. As we pulled away from the condo, I watched in the rearview mirror as Eula burst out onto the front step, her face contorted with fury. But we were already turning the corner, leaving behind the prison that had been my home for too long. Caleb snuggled into my side, already drifting back to sleep. I wrapped my arm around him, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. You okay? Lana asked softly from the front seat. I took a deep breath, looking out at the brightening sky. For the first time in years, I felt a genuine smile spread across my face. Yeah, I said. I think I am. As we drove towards our new life, I felt a mix of emotions, fear of the unknown, sadness for what might have been, but most of all, an overwhelming sense of hope. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see where it would lead. The sun peeked over the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant hues of pink and gold. It was a new day in more ways than one, and I was ready to embrace it with all its challenges and possibilities. Caleb stirred beside me. "Mommy, where are we going?" I hugged him close, my heart full of love and determination. "We're going on an adventure, sweetie. Just you and me." As we drove into the sunrise, I felt the last chains of my old life fall away. We were free, and the future was ours to shape. The autumn breeze rustled through the leaves as I watched Caleb chase a soccer ball across the park. His laughter, carefree and unburdened, was music to my ears. It had been 6 months since we'd left the suffocating confines of the Whitman household, and the change in both of us was palpable. "He's really thriving, isn't he?" Evan's voice came from beside me, warm and supportive as always. I nodded, a smile spreading across my face. It's like he's a different child. No more walking on eggshells, no more tension in the air. Evan's hand found mine, giving it a gentle squeeze. The gesture, once unthinkable in my old life, now felt natural and comforting. Our relationship had blossomed slowly, built on mutual respect and understanding. As we watched Caleb play, my mind drifted to the events of the past few months. The divorce proceedings had been surprisingly smooth, thanks in large part to the mountain of evidence I'd gathered. Gareth, perhaps finally realizing the extent of his parents' manipulation, had agreed to my terms without much fight. Eula, on the other hand, had not gone quietly. Her attempts to paint me as an unfit mother had backfired spectacularly when my lawyer presented the documented evidence of her behavior. The look on her face as her carefully constructed facade crumbled in the courtroom was something I'd never forget. "Penny for your thoughts?" Evan asked, pulling me from my reverie. I shook my head, smiling, just reflecting on how much has changed. A year ago, I couldn't have imagined this life. "You should be proud of yourself, Stacy," he said softly. "What you've accomplished, the strength you've shown, it's incredible." His words warmed me, a far cry from the constant criticism I'd endured for so long. My job at the bookstore had blossomed into a management position, and for the first time in years, I felt valued and respected in my work. "Mommy, watch this." Caleb's excited shout drew our attention. We watched as he executed a wobbly cartwheel, his face beaming with pride. "That's amazing, sweetie," I called back, my heart swelling with love. As Caleb returned to his game, I noticed a familiar figure approaching from across the park. Gareth, looking somewhat diminished without Eula's overbearing presence, walked towards us hesitantly. "Hi," he said, his voice uncertain. "I hope it's okay that I came. I wanted to see Caleb." I nodded, feeling a mix of emotions. "Of course. He's been looking forward to your visit." Gareth's eyes flickered to Evan, a flash of something, regret? Jealousy? Crossing his face before he schooled his features. "You must be Evan. I've heard good things about you from Caleb." Evan stood, extending his hand. "Nice to meet you, Gareth. I'll give you folks some space. Stacy, I'll be by the coffee cart when you're ready." As Evan walked away, Gareth turned to me. "He seems like a good guy." "He is," I said simply. There was no need to twist the knife. We watched Caleb play in silence for a moment before Gareth spoke again. "I wanted to apologize, Stacy, for everything. I know it's too late, but I see now how blind I was, how I let my parents control everything." I studied his face, seeing the genuine remorse there. "Thank you, Gareth. That means a lot." He nodded, his eyes sad. "I've been seeing a therapist trying to understand why I let things get so bad. It's been eye-opening." "I'm glad," I said softly, "for your sake and for Caleb's." As if on cue, Caleb noticed his father and came running over. "Daddy, did you see my cartwheel?" Gareth's face lit up as he knelt to hug our son. "I sure did, champ. That was awesome." Watching them together, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. This wasn't the family I'd imagined when I'd said, "I do," all those years ago, but it was a family nonetheless. One built on honesty, respect, and the hard-won wisdom of experience. As the afternoon wore on, Gareth said his goodbyes, promising Caleb another visit soon. I watched him walk away, feeling a chapter of my life truly close. Evan rejoined us, handing me a steaming cup of coffee. Everything okay? I nodded, leaning into his warmth. Better than okay, actually. I feel free. We gathered our things, Caleb chattering excitedly about his playdate as we headed home. Our home, a modest apartment filled with laughter and love, so different from the cold, oppressive condo we'd left behind. That night, after tucking Caleb in, I stood by the window, looking out at the city lights. The woman reflected in the glass was a far cry from the beaten-down, insecure person I'd been a year ago. She stood tall, confident, her eyes bright with hope for the future. I thought of Eula, her social circle shattered, her control over her son slipping away. Of Henry, finally forced to confront his role in enabling his wife's behavior. Of Gareth, struggling to rebuild his life without his parents' suffocating influence. But mostly, I thought of Caleb, growing up in a home filled with love and respect. Of the lessons he'd learn about standing up for himself, about the power of resilience and self-worth. As I turned away from the window, my eyes fell on a framed photo of Caleb and me, laughing at the beach. It was a simple moment, but it captured everything I'd fought for: joy, freedom, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her child. The journey had been hard, the battles fierce, but standing here now, I knew without a doubt that it had all been worth it. We had our whole lives ahead of us, full of possibilities and free from the shadows of the past. And I was ready to embrace every moment of it.